of Morganville, New Jersey wrote, Dear Mr. Oric, ever since we purchased your 8-pound Oric XL vacuum, my wife has been in heaven. Recently, she panicked, believing she'd broken the vacuum. I contacted your customer service department, and after a few questions, I was sent a replacement part at no charge. The machine is as good as new. Try my 8-pound Oric XL risk-free for 30 days. Call 1-800-989-4200. 1-800-989-4200.
When Comcast first came to town and they said, that was then, this is Comcast, everyone went, yeah. That was then, and here they are. Well, it has been quite a difference, hasn't it? If you're not involved yet with Comcast Digital Cable, it's about time for you to join up. Hundreds of channels of the most requested programming, and now it includes On Demand, featuring thousands of shows and movies to watch whenever you want. I absolutely love On Demand. Comcast Digital Video Recorder, too. You can get that where you pause live TV. It's simply the easiest way to record TV. It's inside the cable box. There's no extra equipment or VCR necessary. You watch one show while you're recording another. Call now and add Comcast DVR to your service. You know the number is 1-800-COMCAST. If you don't have it yet, call Comcast Cable for as low as $29.99 a month for 3 months with free installation, or sign up for Comcast Digital Cable with On Demand and HBO for just $10 more a month for 3 months with free installation. 1-800-COMCAST.
A public service message from Call to Recycle.
Hi, this is Richard Karn. If you've got an old cell phone laying around the house, recycle it. It's easy, it's free, best of all, it's good for the environment. Learn more at calltorecycle.com. That's recycle.com. Or call toll-free at 877-2-RECYCLE. Please, answer the call to recycle.
Attention homeowners with bad credit. If you're in the process of getting a debt consolidation loan with a mortgage broker, get out while you still can. Advantix Lending offers you no points and no fees of any kind. If we can't save you from these predators that charge you obscene fees, we'll give you $1,000. That's right. Call Advantix now. 1-800-355-9575. Call 1-800-355-9575. If your mortgage broker beats our deal, you get $1,000. If we beat them, you could save $8,000, $10,000, or $12,000 in bogus costs. And we'll beat them up and down the block. Homeowners with bad credit, if you're in the process with another lender, call Advantix now. Call 1-800-355-9575. That's 1-800-355-9575. Advantix is a proud member of the Better Business Bureau, licensed by the California Department of Corporations, subject to terms and conditions.
Be a father to your child.
Dad, by spending time with your kids, you're taking an active role in their social and emotional well-being. Because the most important part about being a dad is just being there.
So get yourself together for your child's sake and be a father to your child.
A message from the National Fatherhood Initiative, 100 Black Men of America, and the Ad Council. Call 1-800-790-DADS for free helpful information.
Here's a quick traffic check from the Cron 4 Traffic Center. Cron 4, home of the 9 o'clock news.
It's 6:33. This report brought to you by State Farm. Already starting to see lots of backups down in the south of Market area in San Francisco. Lots of stuff going on tonight. 4 major events. In fact, the CHP predicting nasty traffic. 3 Major League ball games, high-profile concert, and a practice session for tomorrow's Grand Prix auto race. 80, 880, and 101 are the most impacted. You'll definitely want to take public transport if you can tonight. A couple specific things to tell you about. San Francisco southbound 101 before Silver Avenue, a 3-car accident. It's in the 2 right lanes. Bay Bridge, you're going to be backed up to 280 lower deck and backed up to the middle of or beyond the maze, in fact. Metering lights are on upper deck. The right coverage at the right price, an agent you can count on, plus a company more people trust for car insurance. That's great value. That's State Farm. Call today. You can learn more and find an agent at statefarm.com. Now back to Randy Rhodes. I'm Andy Jordan on 960 The Quake.
The Rocky Mountain Goddess, Randy Rhodes, live from Denver. It's been a few days since President Bush said he'd catch Osama dead or alive. Let's check in with the Osama clock and see how long it's been. Oh, Osama clock, how long has it been?
1,439 days.
Damn. So I don't know where he is. Nor, I just don't spend that much time on it, really, to be honest with you.
This check of the Osama clock is brought to you by...
Brought to you by new federal fuel economy standards. Looser than Paris Hilton with a belly full of roofies.
I repeat what I said. I truly am not that concerned about him.
There is something so wrong with that man. And, why doesn't everybody see it? Why can't they just say, there is something wrong with that? This man attacked the United States of America. He literally attacked the United States. He planned it. He did it before. He attacked 2 embassies. When Clinton tried to fire cruise missiles into Afghanistan, the same bastards that say, Bush is our leader. Bush is our commander-in-chief. We must respect him. Bush he'll get Osama when he feels like it. These same people said to Bill Clinton when he actually tried to kill Osama bin Laden, no war for Monica. No war for Monica. And it would have been a really hard sell, believe me, because September 11th didn't happen. And it didn't have to happen. That's the sick thing. But how would Clinton have explained it to you? It was the same day that the Senate found him not guilty. It was the same day. How could he have possibly explained that to you? But he did it. And people scream, no war for Monica, no war for Monica, no war for Monica. You didn't know who Osama bin Laden was, and you didn't want to know. And then all of a sudden, you knew. And then you were so pissed, and you wanted him, I'm out west. There's no poster out west. Dead or alive. Dead or alive. Oh, George, don't talk with the strong words like the dead and the alive. Remember, Laura was outraged. Oh, he was talking so strong and, speaking loud and talking strange and, and it was all just a stage. The whole world is George Bush's stage, and he wants to play the great game, and he'll do it, the way he wants to do it. And he just didn't feel like avenging the death of 3,000 people in New York and a couple hundred in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and then, a couple hundred in the Pentagon. Just didn't really feel like it. Just didn't feel like it. And you say there's no such thing as attention deficit disorder? So I don't understand the thinking of people, except to say I did sit next to a woman on the airplane coming here who was literally putting together for the mega church a PowerPoint presentation about how you could buy cheaper clothes for your children. You could buy, like stick pens instead of the fancy rollerball pens. You could make all kinds of changes to your life, and you could make better contributions, gifts of faith. And she's quoting Bible scripture the whole time to get people to make these 3-month giving plans. I was sickened by it. I really was. I was just nauseous. And she's writing to other, pastors about how she's now, she's here. She's actually, she's in Arvada today. I know this because I was reading her email. She's in Arvada today, and then she's going to Montana, and then she's going to Wyoming, and then she's going to Idaho, and she's just going to, teach all these pastors how to sell. You just can't not do it. Steal from the kids, give to the church. You just can't not do it. Why? What do you think Ezekiel would have done? Excuse me? There's nothing in the Bible that says to give money to a church. Nothing. They have you so trained, it's unbelievable. And anything that Bush does has to do with, being pious now. So apparently his culture of life means you get to kill, 20-year-olds with no war plan. And then when you do have a war plan, if one of those valuable contractors should get himself in trouble because he didn't go in with the third ID, he went in with a bunch of his Blackwater friends into Fallujah where he wasn't supposed to go and screws up the whole battle plan, well then guess what? We're going to send the Marines in to avenge the deaths of the contractors. That's why Cindy Sheehan's son is dead, and that's why Bush can't answer the question. Because if Bush told Cindy Sheehan her son died in Fallujah, and I know that this is exactly what happened because on the 1st of April 2004, that was the day this network went on the air, and there is video footage of me standing in my house in front of the TV going, oh my God, they're hanging people from a bridge. I thought they were going to greet us as liberators. I mean, the exact moment of truth is on my TV. And I just said, this is something other than what it was sold to us as. First of all, I never understood why Iraq. Never. The inspectors were in there. They said Saddam was giving them, everything that they needed, access to this, access to that. They were looking, they were finding nothing. They found some Al-Samud missiles. I saw it on the TV. They were bulldozing them because they went 15 miles too far, and everybody was cooperating. And 13,000 documents. I saw photos of them, and in less than 24 hours, this fabulous government of ours said, there's nothing there. There's no there. Pay no attention to those 13,000 documents. There's nothing there. And it was compressed data, too. It was CDs, and it was it was MP3s and compressed data, like gigabytes of data. And it was just laying out on the table. And there were all kinds of books and logs and inspectors and, just a ton of information. In less than 24 hours, they were able to tell you there was nothing there. And while the inspectors were on the ground, the president told you he's not letting the inspectors in. And I'm screaming, but I'm watching them. They're right there. They're right there. Well, don't believe your own eyes and ears. Believe me. It was sick and it was twisted. But when I knew that this war was a big freaking hoax, when I knew it was a for-profit, big business boondoggle, and that they were going to make so much freaking money, was when I saw independent contractors be hung from a bridge. That's when I knew that they had done some killing and that this was retaliation. And there was a battle plan to go into Fallujah. But the battle plan to go into Fallujah wasn't supposed to happen quite the way it did. The reason why we went into Fallujah the way we did, and got the hell out, by the way, leaving Cindy Sheehan's dead son's death unavenged, and turning that town right back over to insurgents, is because those Blackwater contractors had to be avenged. Not the 3,000 dead people in New York. Not the people that died at the Pentagon on September 11th. And certainly not the people, that Todd Beamer, the Let's Roll dude, and the other two men that you don't even know their names. There were two other men who were, one guy, you explain this to me. Somebody's going to have to do this. Explain to me, how is this possible? 4 planes are making U-turns over the United States. Every plane in this country has standard NORAD response orders. Transponder goes off, somebody goes up and sees what the hell's going on. We just had this happen in, I forget what country, it was Latin America, and a plane, something happened, and they lost cabin pressure, and the pilot was unable to recover, but there were planes up in the sky following the pilot, and they watched the plane crash. That was the same story with Payne Stewart's aircraft, too, in Florida. Right. Payne Stewart, the golfer, he was up there, and they don't know what happened, but something catastrophic happened, and the crew died. And they turned off their transponder, and, of course, NORAD scrambled. They were unable to help Payne Stewart's aircraft, so they just had to stay and escort it until it crashed, and it did. And meanwhile, you've got 4 commercial passenger aircraft on a cloudless New York morning with exercises for such an event, not only perceived by our government, but being executed, an exercise that surmised hijacked aircraft flying into buildings. I mean, that was their task that day, and they were practicing that. What would they do? How would they intercept? Would they, where would the order come from to shoot? And they were doing an exercise almost exactly to address the issue of the September 11th attack. But we never imagined that. See, our intelligence was the failure of an imagination. Oh, bullcrap, Condi. Go do your hair for 3 more hours. And what's really fascinating is 4 planes are making U-turns, and the last one is the Shanksville one. The last one. There is a phone conversation between one of the men on the plane who was saying, he's a little guy. If I can, if I can get some of the other guys, we can definitely take them. And we got to get into the cockpit and see what's going on up there. We're going to do this. And they're plotting and they're planning. And this guy is on the phone with his wife. And you know how long that phone call lasted between him and his wife? 26 minutes. Well, guess what? That was the 4th plane to make a U-turn. And NORAD never goes up. This is a little strange to me. I got to tell you, as a layperson watching all this, you just sit there and you go, he's talking to his wife for 26 minutes. Bush sees. First of all, before Bush even goes into that classroom on the morning of September 11th in Florida, he already knows the plane has hit the World Trade Center. Because that happens at 8:47 in the morning. 8:47, 8:57, that's 10 minutes, right? 9:03, he goes into the classroom. Almost 20 minutes later, he goes into the classroom, knowing that a passenger plane has hit the World Trade Center, knowing he had just read a presidential daily briefing that said that not only were they going to use airplanes, but that they were casing buildings in New York City, and they were interested in federal buildings. And you know what the real September 11th plan was? It was the 2 towers, and it was the Pentagon, and it was the Capitol. That's where the Shanksville plane was going. It was going into the Capitol. And this all happens in a period of over an hour and a half, almost an hour and a half. These planes, these fighters that we have, they go Mach 1. They go the speed of sound or better. You're telling me that they couldn't meet these aircraft? You know, there's plenty of the head of NORAD in New York is in Rome, New York. Now, Barry lives in Rome, New York.
Near there.
So, all right, right near Rome, New York. So how long would it take to get from Rome, New York to New York City if you were doing, I'll just be generous. I'll lowball it. Going 700 miles an hour.
About 9 minutes.
9 minutes.
6 minutes. I don't know.
And we know that the first plane hits the World Trade Center with its transponder off and nobody tracks it. And we know that the second plane hits and the president's already in the classroom because we see Andrew Card tell him this. Well, he already knew that a plane had hit. And there's 20 minutes that go by before the second plane hits. It would have taken 9 minutes if he would have done his job that morning. But he doesn't. And you know what the excuse was? He said he didn't want to scare the children. Well, if you'll remember, deep back into the darkest bowels of your memory, you know, the part that you blocked out, he made the announcement that America had been attacked by terrorists. Planes had been crashed by terrorists. He made that announcement in the school in front of the children. The children had been lined up to use as a photo op for the president. Teachers were behind. Children were in the front. Bush was in front of the children. And he makes the announcement. And there's a girl's face. I'll never forget it. There's a girl who's standing, if you're looking at the TV, she would be on your right-hand side. And, they hear a plane crash, and, you could tell that they're, sad. You could see sadness come on the children's face. And then all of a sudden you hear the word terrorism, and this girl looks like you would have looked if you were in school. And remember they used to do the stupid get under your desk because there's going to be an atomic attack? Because, if there's going to be, an atom bomb going off, what you want to be under is a piece of burning wood. That was a good plan, too, right? But can you imagine if they said this is not a test, this is for real? Or if the fire drill even was for real? You'd be scared. He does it in front of the kids. Just so he could use them for a photo op. Cover. He used them as human shields. And he stays in the school knowing he's a target. He used children in an elementary school as human shields. And somebody someday is going to have to explain to me how it's humanly possible for all these planes to make big, huge, banking U-turns over the state of Ohio when it's supposed to be headed out to San Francisco, headed out to Los Angeles, and now they're making these big banking U-turns and coming right back into the center of economic and political activity, Washington, D.C. and New York, and nobody's up in the sky doing anything about it. Now, I don't blame for 1 minute these pilots. They follow orders. Someone didn't give them an order or told them to stand down if they saw something on their screen. The NORAD place is in Rome, New York, and then there's Needs also, and then there's Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio to take care of that Ohio plane that made the U-turn over Ohio. There were so many opportunities. So I could see why the president is getting a little feisty and a little irritable. Because the days of, he had the best deal he'll ever get from me. And that was resign before we actually changed the Congress in 2006 to hold you accountable. We need to have, at least one branch of government in the hands of an opposition party so we have checks and balances. It's just basic democracy. And we will. So I made him an offer, and I said, step down now, and, we'll call it all off. Republicans would have some coattails. You wouldn't see all these people jumping ship like the rats they really are. And protecting this guy, but now we're talking war crimes. Now we're saying The Hague is starting to look good. He had the best offer he'll ever get, and he turned it down. You know what you call a guy like that? A schmuck. 48 after.
This is The Randy Rhoads Show.
The Randy Rhoads Show on Air America Radio.
It's radio, only smarter.
A major quake has hit the Bay Area. Randy Rhodes is shaking it up 3 to 7 each afternoon. Talk radio for the rest of us. 960, The Quake.
More coffee, mister?
Yes, please. Oh, boy.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Hot coffee all over you. Let me get some paper towels and some cold water. Are you all right?
Why, I'm just fine, young lady. It's just golden coffee.
Mister, you must be gelling.
That's why I'm not yelling, even though there's considerable redness and swelling.
More gel, more gelling. New and improved Dr. Scholl's massaging gel insoles. More cushioning, totally outrageous comfort. To start gelling like never before, see the doctor, Dr. Scholl's.
Waitress, how about some more coffee?
Hi, I'm David Mirasu. For every season, there's a perfect wine. This summer, it's our smooth and vibrant Mirasu Pinot Noir. More than 150 years ago, the Mirasu family was the first to plant Pinot Noir in California. This year, our delicate vintage is great with grilled salmon and fresh summer produce. I'm David Mirasu, and I want our Pinot Noir to make your summer even brighter. Mirasu, life is good under the sun.
Mirasu Vineyards, Healdsburg, California.
When Comcast first came to town and they said, you know, that was then, this is Comcast, everyone went, yeah. That was then, and here they are. Well, it has been quite a difference, hasn't it? If you're not involved yet with Comcast Digital Cable, it's about time for you to join up. Hundreds of channels of the most requested programming, and now it includes On Demand featuring thousands of shows and movies to watch whenever you want. I absolutely love On Demand. Comcast Digital Video Recorder, too. You can get that where you pause live TV. It's simply the easiest way to record TV. It's inside the cable box. There's no extra equipment or VCR necessary. You watch one show while you're recording another. Call now and add Comcast DVR to your service. You know the number is 1-800-COMCAST. If you don't have it yet, call Comcast Cable for as low as $29.99 a month for 3 months with free installation, or sign up for Comcast Digital Cable with On Demand and HBO for just $10 more a month for 3 months with free installation. 1-800-COMCAST.
Music can mean only one thing here on the O'Franken Factor. It's time for the Oi 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 Show. Are you ready, Al?
Sure.
It's Friday, and it's time for a special entertainment edition of the Oi 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 Show.
Phew.
It was either that or the all-torture edition.
Hey.
Well, first Friends goes off the air.
What? It did? No one told me. Oi.
More than 55 million people watched the final episode of the show last week.
They're all gone? The Friends? Even that nice Ross?
Well, Joey's coming back with his own show.
Aye.
And last night was the sign-off for Frasier.
Aye. Actually, I never actually cared for that show. Something that was, I don't know, about it was very, very...
boyish?
Yes. Yes.
Brad Pitt's new movie, Troy, opened this week.
Yes, I'm giving it 3 oys. Oi, oi, oi.
Is that good or bad?
If I give it 3 oys, that means go see Troy.
And in India, a major electoral upset that no one saw coming gives the power back to the Nehru-Gandhi family dynasty.
Oi. Well, wait a minute. That's not entertainment.
It is in India.
Oi, oi, oi. Okay, so what's the number 1 show in Israel?
You don't want to know.
The Oi 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 show today is brought to you by Troy, now in theaters nationwide. Al Franken says, if I give it 3 oys, go see Troy.
Upper Deck. It looks like Coke, refreshes like Coke, bubbles like Coke, goes down like Coke, and tastes like Coke. It's everything you love about Coke, but it's not Coke, it's Coke Zero. Real Coke taste, 0 calories, no compromise. Everybody chill. This is 960, The Quake.
960, The Quake.
All righty, let's see. We will be at the birthday bash here in Boulder tonight, and then tomorrow Barry's going to show me the way to, not San Jose, although I'd like to get out there too, but... to Crawford.
Camp Casey 1 and 2, and the Peace House in Crawford.
You know, if Bush would just talk to Cindy, she would tell him how to get porta potties to the troops, how to get showers out there, how to get water out there. You know, she kind of figured it out.
Oh yeah, that's amazing how much better off they are. And we started with nothing.
Cindy Sheehan for Commander-in-Chief. Okay. I'll try and get through some calls, but do it fast. George in New York.
Hi, how you doing, Randy?
I'm good.
I just came back from Crawford myself and wanted to congratulate you for going out there. You did great work, and Cindy's really stepping up for America. So pleased that you're going to be meeting with her.
I'll tell her that you said so. The Milkman in the Virgin Islands.
Hey, darling.
Hey, Milkman.
You are our goddess of radio. We love you.
I had no idea.
Oh, yes. You
That's so
are.
cool.
You are shining light.
Well,
I
thanks.
just want to let you know, I sent a song in there, and you got to listen to this thing. It's called The Cost of Freedom by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young from the album So Far. And it's really a cool song. It's short. It's about 2 minutes, and it outlines the plight and the commitment, ultimate commitment that a soldier must make. It's really a beautiful song, and I think you'll feel it if you hear it.
Well, I've never heard a song by them that I didn't feel, so I will definitely give that a listen. Thank you for calling from the Virgin Islands. That's amazing. Mike in Illinois, I hear you're 13 years old, and I know you've been on hold for hours. What can I do for you today?
Well, I just heard, I read on your message board, actually, there's a 14-year-old, and I call Mike Malloy all the time, and I thought, I'm finally going to call Randy. And I love you, Randy. And I attended a Democratic meeting last night, and everyone there absolutely loves you. They're your favorite on 850 here in Chicago. And I hope sometime you can come out to Chicago here and do a live broadcast or a book signing when that comes out or something here.
Oh, that's so cool. I would love to meet you, Mike. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
Thanks. Eric in California.
Westlake Village, California, Randy.
Oh, Southern California. Okay.
Yeah. How you doing today?
I'm good.
We love you here in Ventura County.
I love all of you out here. Really, I do. I need to leave New York more often.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you if you happened to see Sean Insanity last night. He was talking about a bunch of people out in front of Walter Reed Hospital, and these people, I guess, have a vigil for the soldiers. And Sean Insanity is trying to spin them as protesters and disgraceful and disgusting. I wanted to know if you had heard about it or.
Where's his next hospice appearance?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there are people outside of Walter Reed, but what they're doing is holding a vigil because they're closing Walter Reed.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes, they're closing Walter Reed Army Hospital.
I was actually doing a search on the internet.
If Sean loves Walter Reed Army Hospital and the good work that it does do, and the good work that it's done since 1919, then maybe he ought to join those protesters to keep it open.
Maybe.
Yeah, instead of, organizing his listeners to go by hospices where people are meeting their maker with their families in the most caring, most incredibly giving way. Hospice workers, by the way, are angels. There are angels that walk among us, and those are some of them. But the nerve of him. All right, everybody. I will see you on Monday. I will be back in New York, and I will have news from Crawford. I have my camera. I will take photos and post them for you. Thank you, Barry Crimmins, for 3 weeks in the ditch.
Thank you.
Thanks, Juan. Thanks, everybody. 57 after. Good night. Have a good weekend.
The Randy Rhodes Show.
Visit Randy's message board and article archive at therandyrhoadshow.com.
Hi, I'm David Orrick. When you call 1-800-989-4200, you get a real person within seconds, not a 5-minute menu of buttons to push. Here's another old-fashioned idea. My 8-pound Orrick XL vacuums are built to last long after you've thrown the other brands away. Call 1-800-989-4200. I'll send you one to try, risk-free for 30 days. Of course, if you'd rather talk to a machine, you can always call someone else.
We're talking with Felicia Stoller, nutritionist, registered dietitian, and the mother of 2 growing children.
Like all parents, it's hard getting my kids to drink milk. And now, the USDA recommends 3 dairy servings a day for kids over 8 to increase calcium intake. So it's even more important to drink milk. Since flavored milk makes it taste better, I compared the nutrition-enriched chocolate Ovaltine to Nesquik powder. Ovaltine has a lot more vitamins and minerals than Nesquik. You don't have to be a nutritionist to know rich chocolate Ovaltine makes milk better.
More Ovaltine, please.
When Comcast first came to town and they said, that was then, this is Comcast, everyone went, yeah. That was then, and here they are. Well, it has been quite a difference, hasn't it? If you're not involved yet with Comcast Digital Cable, it's about time for you to join up. Hundreds of channels of the most requested programming, and now it includes On Demand, featuring thousands of shows and movies to watch whenever you want. I absolutely love On Demand. Comcast Digital Video Recorder, too. You can get that where you pause live TV. It's simply the easiest way to record TV. It's inside the cable box. There's no extra equipment or VCR necessary. You watch one show while you're recording another. Call now and add Comcast DVR to your service. You know the number is 1-800-COMCAST. If you don't have it yet, call Comcast Cable for as low as $29.99 a month for 3 months with free installation, or sign up for Comcast Digital Cable with On Demand and HBO for just $10 more a month for 3 months with free installation. 1-800-COMCAST.
Air America for the Bay Area. Tell a friend you found Progressive Talk 960. The Quake. KQKE.
I'm Andy Jordan with Quake News, weather, and traffic. Our top story this hour.
Cindy Sheehan, you said my president is a liar and a terrorist and should be tried for war crimes.
Dueling vigils this weekend. The story after we go to the Cron 4 Traffic Center. Cron 4, home of the 9 o'clock news. This Quake Traffic Check brought to you by Caltrans and the Office of Traffic Safety. 80, and 101 jammed up in the Bay Area now because of 4 major events going on, including 3 ball games, 2 words, commute for you. A couple specific things to tell you about. You're going to be slowing eastbound on the lower deck of the Bay Bridge, eastbound 80 there. It's going to be very slow between 280 and the lower deck, and that's going to be complicated by a 4-car accident that's in the right lane right before you get to Treasure Island. Upper deck, look for backups to Beyond the Maze. Metering lights are on very slow on the upper deck into the city. Pretty slow down around South of Market, too. The 2 most common reasons for crashes in highway work zones are speeding and inattentive driving. Please don't use mobile phones while traveling through work zones. Remember to slow for the cone zone. And here's a look at what's happening right now on 960 The Quake. Vacaville Cindy Sheehan wants to know, for what noble cause are young Americans dying in Iraq? President Bush calls it freedom. But Iraq having a tough time with Western-style democracy, with Sunnis outright rejecting a draft constitution today. Still, Shiite and Kurdish leaders will put the draft they have before Parliament this weekend, despite that rejection. So why are young Americans dying in the war? It's something many Americans who've lost family members don't understand. But one father of a slain Texas Marine, Gary Qualls, is challenging Vacaville Cindy Sheehan to a debate and took out a TV ad criticizing her for demanding an answer from President Bush.
Cindy Sheehan, you said my president is a liar and a terrorist and should be tried for war crimes. You said our country is not worth fighting and dying for. You put my son's name on your crosses for your sick cause.
To meet, let's dialogue, let's not debate, because what good is that going to do? I could leave. I could just take off and live in Mexico or something. But I love my country, and I want to save it.
Cindy Sheehan today on the Quake's Ed Schultz. Meanwhile, dueling protest in Crawford, Texas, as the pro-war group You Don't Speak For Me Cindy arrives in Crawford. Sheehan says she plans a day of remembrance to honor the soldiers who have died in Iraq and those currently serving there. While many Democrats are behind Sheehan, you should know California's own Senator Dianne Feinstein is hedging.
I think everybody has the right, and so she certainly has the right. I'm not sure it's the most constructive thing she can do right now, the way she's doing it, to be candid with you. But everybody has that right.
U.S. government needs to step it up and deliver green cards to thousands of immigrants who are legal residents. That from a federal judge today in San Francisco. Immigration officials have 60 days to come up with their plan for getting the documents to immigrants, some of whom have been waiting for years. Storm-weary Florida girding itself again for a stronger hit from Hurricane Katrina. The storm about 100 miles west of Key West and could strike anywhere from the panhandle of Florida to Louisiana with winds up to 130 miles an hour. 6 people have already died from the storm. Coretta Scott King still recovering from her major stroke and mild heart attack over a week ago. The widow of civil rights leader Martin Luther King is expected to be in hospital for another month for rehabilitation. King is being fed by mouth and can say a few words, mostly "I love you," when she sees her family. Coming up, the Quake Kicker. It's next on 960 The Quake.
April 1805. Bison as far as the eye can see.
Imagine if Lewis and Clark's journals continued long past the end of their journey.
1905. Bison all but gone.
How would they describe their trail today?
2005. The river is sight.
What's been lost, and what can we do to preserve what's left? Walk with Lewis and Clark and see what you discover at www.lewisandclark200.org.
This is a public service message of the National Council of the Lewis and Clark Bicentennial, the Missouri Historical Society, and the Ad Council.
Be a father to your child.
Dad, by spending time with your kids, you're taking an active role in their social and emotional well-being. Because the most important part about being a dad is just being there.
So get yourself together for your child's sake and be a father to your child.
A message from the National Fatherhood Initiative, 100 Black Men of America, and the Ad Council. Call 1-800-790-DADS for free helpful information.
Here this hour, gas isn't the only commodity with a sky-high price. Alan Honigberg says cheese is through the roof.
Mike Cass is a Columbus cheese merchant. He says rules to protect the food supply and the cost of fuel are factors in driving prices up, and not just for the imported stuff.
The American artisanal cheeses are they're over $20 a pound. A lot of French cheeses are in that $20 range.
Cass also cites a decade-old trade war between the U.S. and Europe as adding to the cost of a lot of cheeses. Alan Honigberg, Columbus.
5 minutes past the hour, the Majority Report up in just a minute, and a look at weather after this on the Quake.
A major quake is in the Bay Area, and the epicenter is at 960 on the AM dial. Talk radio for the rest of us. 960, The Quake. Talk to The Quake. 1-866-960-KQKE.
Quick weather, not a bad weekend for you. 62 coastside, 95 in the valley. Could see 80 in San Francisco tomorrow. And anybody's guess whether you'll see more sun than clouds. Depends on where you are, but a mix of it anyway. I'm Andy Jordan. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here Monday. That's what's happening right now on the radio station shaking up the Bay Area. This is 960 The Quake.
The Majority Report, 7 to 10 p.m. on 960 The Quake.
The Majority Report with Janine Garofalo and Sam Cedar, where every day's Casual Friday. So don't forget your denim hip huggers. We're not afraid of dungarees on the Majority Report.
Something's happening here today. A show of strength with your boys brigade. And I'm so happy and you're so kind. You want more money and closer to mine. Textbooks for atomic brains, and the public gets what the public wants. But I want nothing to say it's a dance. I'm going underground.
Hello and welcome to the Majority Report. My name is Janine Garofalo. Casual Friday? Sure, Casual Friday. Just another reminder. End the war, bring the troops home now, rebuild our communities. United for Peace and Justice, www.unitedforpeaceandjustice.org is having some rallies for a media with more integrity, for government policy concerning Iraq, Israel, and Palestine with more integrity, and Troops Out Now rallies throughout September, and there's information about that on our blog. Now, last night, Colin.
Yeah, Jan?
Yeah, I was watching Oprah.
Really?
And Greg Barrett was on. He's been a regular, semi-regular. Greg Barrett, great guy. And a good comedian, good writer, has a book called Maybe He's Not That Into You, or He's Not That Just Not That Into You, or whatever it's called. But it's advice for people to respect themselves enough to get out of relationships that are dysfunctional for them, or where the other person is being disrespectful of them, is not valuing them, what have you. And I've said it before, I'm going to bring it back up tonight. As I watched the women sort of begging Greg to change that perspective as they would talk about their dysfunctional relationships with the men in their lives, and Greg would say, you have to change the situation, you have to get out of the situation. Oh, but he does, just because there's this need, this emotional need that they have to see the relationship in another way, characterize it in another way, to feel that they aren't being disrespected, because they want that so desperately. That same type of dysfunction, that same type of personal crisis, whatever you want to call it, or as Matt Taibbi of the New York Press and Rolling Stone and an author calls it, sort of a sickness, as in regards to Bush fanatics and the fans of George Bush. It's the same type of dysfunction. And we have all kinds of self-help books for people to get out of those relationships, in the workplace or in their home. And yet, people continue to have these negative patterns with their media and with their government, or with the military-industrial newstainment complex. And Matt Taibbi, I think I'm saying his name correctly, wrote an article for the most recent Rolling Stone about going down to the Crawford Vigil, Cindy Sheehan's vigil, which, by the way, will be moving on to Washington, and sort of regarding those that supported the anti-war movement, supported Cindy and Casey Sheehan and her family, and those that were absolutely against her and were very supportive of George W. Bush. And it is the same type of sickness. And he categorized it as a disease. I know he's being a little bit funny, but in a way it is. And he talks about the pro-Bush supporters who were there to antagonize the anti-war movement, and people that were there at the vigil. And he went to this place called the Yellow Rose, which is in Texas near the Crawford Ranch, which is a pro-Bush meeting place. And, of course, he said the storefront is drenched in patriotic accoutrement, red, white, and blue bunting, and there's a huge Liberty Bell in front of the store, and, of course, huge stone tablets of the Ten Commandments. And why is that always sort of a combination that is not surprising? When you have people that are vehemently clinging to a very kind of conservative or hardcore or hawkish president, even when said hardcore president has an agenda that is harmful, not only for the people of this country and the people involved in putting up the patriotic bunting, but people around the world. It's the Reagan myth, the Nixon myth, the J. Edgar Hoover, Joe McCarthy myth, all of these right-wing type of adherences, and to a right-wing brand of spirituality, a right-wing brand of religion, which runs counter to what is best for people, for themselves and their families. I don't understand why so frequently the non-critical thinkers, the pro-Bush people in this case, tend to be those the most decked out in the puffy QVC sweatshirts with the flag on it and the sayings and the bumper stickers. It is such a bizarre combination, the flag lapel pin. And the flag lapel pin became very popular during the Nixon-Watergate scandal for those that supported Nixon, naturally. It's a very strange thing that makes me, personally, recoil from patriotic accoutrement.
Maybe it's them trying to cover up their shame for supporting such things?
I don't think they have that sense of shame. I don't think, but they definitely need...
I mean, I think they have the shame, but I don't think they realize they have shame, and it doesn't come across as shame, but... Maybe that's what that kind of thing is.
I think they're trying to avoid shame.
Yeah, that's what I think. I don't think they have right, but I don't think the shame factor even exists in something that they're either aware, consciously or subconsciously, that they're trying to avoid. Because you tend to find this pride and anger. And you know what I mean? Like in, this is what I believe. There's a difference between what you think and what is real. Just like with the women, and maybe he's not that into you. There's a big difference between what you think, what is real, and what you want.
And what you want has a lot to do with it, because you want to be right about it. You want to think that what you're doing is good and all those things, but you refuse to look at the truth and what's going on.
Right. Well, that's part of being a non-critical thinker, but for whatever reason, being a non-critical thinker tends to lead people towards unexamined patriotism, unexamined religion, unexamined policy, and a very hard-line approach to the world, where you see things in black and white only. I understand that for some people they really need to see things as either right or wrong, whatever. But the point is, you're not helping yourself out. You're not doing yourself any favors. You're not doing your kids any favors. You're not doing the troops any favors. And very frequently, I think what a lot of right-wing religion, a lot of right-wing politics, a lot of right-wing radio listening, a lot of right-wing Fox News watching, it nourishes your inner jerk. It just nourishes that inner jerk. And for some people, because they're enraged about whatever their craptastic life has brought them, a bad divorce, a bad job, rotten teenage kids, whatever dissatisfaction has come your way, unanticipated, or through whatever you've created, this anger and rage must be satisfied through right-wing politics, or through identifying yourself as a conservative, or identifying yourself as a fundamentalist, evangelical, or born-again. And a lot of the born-again people have the same type of rage and intensity as someone who is on cocaine, or when, if you've had to sit up all night with some of your friends that have been doing coke and they're on that bender with that teeth gnashing intensity of more. We got to get more. We got to go get more. We got to get more. We got to get more. Where's more? That same type of thing. It's such a fine line between evangelical, born-again, end of days, Fox News fan, George Bush fanatic, Ann Coulter loving, Michael Savage loving, and addiction and need, just teeth gnashing need. But they are destroying themselves as well. That's the weirdest thing. I guess the same with addiction for drugs and alcohol. The difference between life and death is basically nil. You know what I mean? Your quality of life is so poor because of the prison you've built for yourself. But the same with right-wing fandom. The quality of your life is so poor. That lack of empathy, that lack of walking a mile in another person's shoes, that lack of understanding is what's the point? If you are like a right-wing radio-loving, Fox News-loving, George Bush-loving, warmongering, end-of-dayser, what is the point? I don't know why you get out of bed every morning unless your rage just puts one foot in front of the other, and without that rage, you got nothing. And I just don't get it. When we come back, we're going to be talking later on in the program to the Lady Bunny and also Justin Thoreau. We'll be right back.
America under attack. They can break the rules, dismantle the courts, and feed at the corporate trough.
People like this are a menace to decent society.
But they can't stop the Majority Report on Air America Radio.
Get ready to rumble from the epicenter of progressive talk. This is 960 The Quake.
This is a Mother Jones Minute. George Bush invaded Iraq under the pretense of weapons of mass destruction. So you'd think the first thing America would do after invading would be to track down the Iraqi scientists who worked on WMDs in the 80s and 90s. Well, think again. This month's Mother Jones magazine reveals that the Bush administration put almost no effort into tracking down Saddam's nuclear scientists. Iraq had many scientists with working knowledge of WMDs who could sell their services to the highest bidder. But a source tells Mother Jones that only 3 of Iraq's top 200-some nuclear scientists have been accounted for. The others are missing. If the Bush administration had actually cared about WMDs, it would have made an effort to find Iraq's nuclear weapons makers. Instead, Bush let the scientists slip away, making the world more dangerous for all of us. Read the full report online at MotherJones.com. This has been a Mother Jones Minute.
What did you do today? What didn't I do today?
Think about life back in the mid-1800s. There were no computers, no cell phones, no movies, no radios, no way to even record music. But things were about to change. This year we celebrate 125 years of electric innovation. One man who made much of that innovation possible was Thomas Edison. Even though he was partially deaf, Edison discovered how to record and play back sound using tin foil and a wax cylinder, creating the first phonograph, his favorite invention. Known as the Wizard of Menlo Park, in 1913 he invented talking pictures along with the technology to view them. Over the years, the kinetograph camera and the projecting kinetoscope gave way to video cassettes, DVDs, and CD-ROMs many now take for granted. Edison, who helped design the earliest telephones, would have marveled at cameras on cell phones, even cell phones themselves. Think how times have changed. Thank you, Mr. Edison. To learn more, visit EEI.org, the Edison Electric Institute, celebrating our past, lighting our present, and powering our future.
Hey, you.
Put away your checkbook. Your mortgage is on us. That's right. Century 21 Northern California Brokers Council will pay your mortgage for an entire year. That means more cash in your pocket. Stop by your local Century 21 office or log on to C21Cash.com to enter. That's the letter C, number 21Cash.com. Plus, you can search instantly for a Century 21 real estate professional near you. Thinking of buying or selling a home in the San Francisco Bay Area? Contact a Century 21 office near you today. No purchase necessary. Each office is independently owned and operated.
In the 21st century, a woman shouldn't have to risk death to give birth. Yet, in many developing countries, women are dying needlessly in childbirth or from complications during pregnancy. The United Nations Population Fund is working to make motherhood safer. Population Action International supports the work being done by UNFPA. To learn more, contact us on the web at populationaction.org. That's www.populationaction.org.
A major quake is in the Bay Area. Talk radio for the rest of us. 960, The Quake.
His name was York. And when Lewis and Clark set out in 1804, he was a slave, William Clark's slave. But when he left so-called civilization, York became something altogether different. He became free. He became an elite hunter and explorer. He was revered by the Indians, and he was given the right to vote before most African Americans were given the right to speak. But York's bravest act came at trail's end when he demanded his freedom, because as Lewis and Clark returned to accolades, York returned to slavery. Some say York was eventually freed. Others say he went west because what he found on the trail was a thing no man could ever give him. What can we learn from a 200-year-old story? Walk with Lewis and Clark at lewisandclark200.org and see what you discover, because their trail winds through us all.
This is a public service message of the National Council of the Lewis and Clark Bicentennial, the Missouri Historical Society, and the Ad Council.
One of the reasons why I'm not going to abandon this policy is, what's the alternative? You want to turn all of this over to the people you see from the left on television every day? You want to turn this over to people like Hillary Clinton? You want to turn all this over to people like John Kerry or Ted Kennedy or Patrick Leahy? Do you want to turn it over to that crowd? Not me. I don't care, folks, no matter how bad it may be getting, and no matter how bad you think it isn't that bad in Iraq right now. But regardless, the one thing that I just can't come to grips with is turning over the national defense of this country to the American left.
That's another right-wing loser, Rush Limbaugh, whose problems have nothing to do with politics. They have everything to do with who he is, what he isn't, his character flaws, and all the right-wingness he espouses is because of his inner struggle, which actually he's given up. He's thrown in the towel. He was probably a real douchebag from the word go. And there is, no shortage of these right-wingers. There is, in Texas, there's a guy, a right-wing talk show host. His name is Daryl Oncarlo. And he is a guy who keeps calling Cindy Sheehan a pinko and, equating her with evil. Now, of course, he doesn't believe that. He knows it. It's because he's got, personal issues that make him say things like that. But he also has no respect for his listeners. And he knows that Pavlov's dopes, who love him, just need the red meat to keep them getting out of bed every day. And the talking points to, besmirch and mock Cindy Sheehan are not about Cindy Sheehan. They are not about the Iraq issue. They are about these right-wingers, their personal problems, and that everything is a zero-sum game for them. They must dominate. They have supported this war. They are cheerleaders. They always are chicken hawks, too. They in no way sacrifice. They don't want to pay taxes. They don't want to go over there and do their radio show. They don't want to do a USO tour. They don't want to do anything that actually gets their own hands dirty. But they love the hate. They love the aggro. They love to throw the red meat to Pavlov's dopes. And, Rush Limbaugh, what leftists do you see on TV every day? Which ones? They don't exist in mainstream television. They are not on TV every day. And the false choice, turn it over to them? No, that's not the choice. It's not either or. What it is A, hold those accountable who wage this illegal, immoral war of choice. B, get out and try and make sure this type of thing doesn't happen again. But that's, that he doesn't, he doesn't care who's suffering. He doesn't care about anything but trying to dominate because of his poor character, because he's kind of a loser. And there is no accountability, really, for these people, I guess, except for when they can't sleep at night, because they do have some moments of clarity when they know that they're dickheads, and they feel badly about that, and then they maybe have a scotch and hang around with people that support their views, and they build them back up again. But it's just kind of a bizarre thing. There's a guy who I had personal experience meeting who, his name is Brian Kilmeade, and he's on one of the worst shows on television called Fox and Friends Morning Show. And it's like a morning zoo, drive time, lowbrow for people of low character. And he's a professional partisan hack and a liar, but he's one of those guys where you don't know if he knows he's lying. He doesn't seem intelligent in any way. He's got a very unintelligent face. And he was a guy who I met who actually helped solve my self-loathing problem. This is a true story. And actually, they wouldn't use this on an Oprah light bulb moment. I don't know why, but they once asked me about this. But this is a true story. And he was such a bile-infested jerk, and so clearly a bizarre cat. You know what I mean? Like a character, rather. I said cat because they did a thing about Japanese cats right before I came on. But the show for Fox and Friends. And we had an argument on the air, and he solved me of my self-loathing issue in that I realized I'm okay. I've always, second-guessed my intellect, my personality, all this kind of stuff, and definitely I'm flawed. No argument there. And I'm a work in progress, as we all are. Well, some of us are. But this guy was such a jerk and such an all-around loser and had no sense of self-awareness and didn't have any decency whatsoever. I thought, hey, my parents did something right. I will not wake up every morning so full of self-loathing because, comparatively, I've done pretty well with my personality. And these Fox and Friends people are really losers. But anyway, so the Rolling Stones have a new song called Sweet Neocon that Mick Jagger wrote, which is a critique of the neocon agenda and George W. Bush. And Brian Kilmeade, loser that he is, Fox and Friends, he came out on Fox and Friends and made a statement that the Rolling Stones do not deserve to be associated with the NFL. Their advertisement should not be run on Monday Night Football. That's where Brian Kilmeade is coming from. So a person who is a critical thinker who points out the very obvious flaws of the neocon agenda. After all the pain, suffering, death, money, that Brian Kilmeade will still come out and say that the Rolling Stones don't deserve to have their ads aired during Monday Night Football. But that's all that Brian Kilmeade is, unfortunately. You can't expect any better from a right-winger like that, because they are no better than that. That's the problem. They can say they're conservative, they can say they're a Republican, they can say they're patriotic, they can say that they're God-fearing, none of which is true. And that's why they are the way they are. They can't allow themselves to know that because they don't have self-awareness. And maybe, Colin, that's what you were saying. That's why all the bunting and the sweatshirts and the bumper stickers. Because if they were to pull that thread, the sweater would never stop unraveling. And then they'd have to either A, change their lives, or B, jump out a window. Not a terrible idea for the Fox and Friends staff. Pat Robertson called for it, oddly enough. We'll be right back on The Majority Report.
The Majority Report on Air America Radio.
Views from the left. The talk radio station you've been waiting for. This is 960 The Quake.
There's an epidemic coming. It will affect the entire world.
A threat is spreading.
Billions and billions of dollars are waiting to be earned.
A conspiracy is growing.
Big pharmaceuticals right up there with the arms dealers.
And all of our lives are in the hands of two people.
There are millions of people that all need help.
Top critics are calling The Constant Gardener one of the best pictures of the year.
Payoffs, cover-ups, unmarked graves.
Don't try and play detective.
Vanity Fair says it's smart, provocative, and genuinely tense.
They want you silenced.
Edge of your seat, electrifying. terrifying entertainment, masterfully crafted, raves the Washington Post.
These people, they kill anybody.
And Entertainment Weekly declares, finally, a thriller with brains. From the director of City of God, and based on the international bestseller by John le Carre, Ralph Fiennes, Rachel Weisz. Get out! The Constant Gardener.
Some very nasty things live under rocks, especially in foreign gardens.
Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent. Experience this movie on the big screen Wednesday.
Do you wish you could slow down the hands of time? You can do something about premature aging. Take Nature Made Vitamin E, a powerful antioxidant. It helps fight premature aging by protecting the cells in your heart, eyes, skin, brain, and immune system from potential damage caused by free radicals that occur naturally in your body. Maybe it's time you consider Nature Made Vitamin E. Look for Nature Made Vitamin E in the vitamin aisle and hold your health to the highest standard with Nature Made.
Hi, I'm David Orrick. I was walking in the park and somebody stopped me and said, I'm tired of taping up the leaks in my old vacuum and then having to buy another one every 2 years. I'm going to buy an Orrick. Friends, why should manufacturers stop making throwaway vacuums when you keep buying them? For a vacuum that lasts and lasts, call 1-800-989-4200, 1-800-989-4200, and try an 8-pound Orrick XL.
CNN Radio News Update. I'm Greg Black. As South Florida residents struggle to recover from Hurricane Katrina, forecasters say residents of the Florida Panhandle could be next. FEMA Director Michael Brown says his agency will be ready to help.
FEMA is positioning all of its material and manpower to be ready to respond as this thing begins to move through the Gulf and make landfall again.
The Calpo brothers behind bars again tonight in Aruba. Police aren't saying much other than that the two are suspected in the rape and murder of Natalie Holloway. The FDA putting off a decision on the morning after birth control pill for another 2 months. The agency has to decide how it will allow over-the-counter sales to adults. U.S. airstrikes today in Iraq. Military officials say they destroyed an insurgent safe house in the western Anbar province. Playwright August Wilson says he's been diagnosed with inoperable liver cancer. Wilson earned 2 Pulitzers, including one for the piano lesson. This is CNN Radio News. 5 homes destroyed, another 30 evacuated because of a fast-moving wildfire in southwestern Oregon. It's the same area hit by another wildfire just 3 years ago. Army officials investigating claims that one of their forensic examiners has been falsifying DNA test results. Our David Ensor says this could cause big problems for the Army's criminal prosecutors.
This could throw in doubt 479 different cases over the last 10 years, we're told. And these cases might be from the other services as well as the Army. So a very serious matter. These are cases that hang on DNA evidence in some cases, and the Army is looking into it. And you know, sometimes the bad news comes late Friday.
Investigators say they believe the problem is limited to a single examiner. And former big league star Dwight Gooden may be watching the World Series this year from a jail cell. A Florida judge is ordering him held without bail until October on a DUI charge. I'm Greg Black. This is the CNN Radio Network.
In the black of night, a flashlight illuminates a darkened path. The bright glowing beacon of a lighthouse guides ships from distant seas to the safety of port. Strobe lights mark runways for jets and helicopters. Headlights, streetlights, and traffic signals allow cars and trucks to navigate our highways quickly and safely. All of this is possible thanks to Thomas Edison and the light bulb. From this humble beginning, we can now venture out confidently in the dark of night and explore places where sunlight doesn't reach. Whether it's the depths of the ocean or the deepest of caves, the light bulb helps us discover more of the world around us. As we celebrate 125 years of electric innovation, think about Thomas Edison, a brilliant inventor with a sharp sense of humor, unwavering dedication, and ceaseless drive to make the world a better place. Be courageous, he told us. Have faith and go forward. Much easier when light guides our way. To learn more, visit EEI.org, the Edison Electric Institute, celebrating our past, lighting our present, and powering our future.
200 years ago, Lewis and Clark discovered the West. That is, if you don't count the millions of American Indians who discovered it first. Because in 1804, Lewis and Clark left one civilization only to encounter dozens of others. Rich, diverse cultures like the Lemhi Shoshone, Clatzips, and Mandan Hadatzes. Cultures that had thrived on the Great Plains and Pacific Coast for thousands of years and despite everything are still here today. The Indians Lewis and Clark met could have ended their expedition many times, but saved it instead. Many times, with their food, horses, and compassion. What can we learn from a 200-year-old story? Walk with Lewis and Clark at lewisandclark200.org and see what you discover, because their trail winds through us all.
This is a public service message of the National Council of the Lewis and Clark Bicentennial, the Missouri Historical Society, and the Ad Council.
Cindy Sheehan is on a mission to figuratively urinate on her son's grave and make his death stand for nothing. She's only interested in using her son as a prop to advance her own hatred for the American troops. I got to tell you something. Since we started our You Don't Speak for Me, Cindy tour caravan to Crawford, I've received hundreds of death threats from Cindy Sheehan supporters because I dare to speak out and support our troops. My dog is getting death threats, for God's sakes. These people aren't peaceful. These people aren't anti-war. These people are creeps who hate this country and everything it stands for. She's one of our local whack jobs here. It's only as she's become more radicalized that she's adopted her son's death as some sort of cause celeb.
That was right-wing pundit, professional liar, and partisan hack, Mark Williams. And everything he's saying is what Freud calls transference and projection. Everything he accuses Cindy Sheehan of, he is guilty of, and he knows it. He is a liar about the death threats. He is an absolute liar on a daily basis. And Move America Forward is one of those fake AstroTurf groups that loathes everything plurality stands for. They hate democracy. It gives them the heebie-jeebies. Justin Theroux is on the phone. Justin of The Baxter, the movie that opened up today. Nationwide. And Justin, you just heard that statement.
That was retarded.
It is. Yeah, and you and I, we've discussed this at length over and over again. Is it not clear that a lot of these right-wingers are grappling with some type of personality issue? That's really what the point of origin is.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, that guy clearly has no personality, but he has a dog.
Yeah, that allegedly gets death threats. Now, these guys they lie as lying has been elevated to a philosophy for right-wingers. And also, before we talk about The Baxter...
No, we don't have to talk about it. But...
A romantic comedy directed by Michael Showalter of The State and Stella and Wet Hot American Summer.
Wow.
And also, your David Lynch movie's coming out soon, right?
Not soon, but it's coming out in the spring, I guess.
And what's it called again?
It's called Inland Empire.
That's right. There's a big old article on you in the Village Voice this week.
Oh.
And every review I've read of The Baxter almost unanimously says you are a scene stealer. So, Justin, you have to give the scenes back. Stop stealing the scenes. But, Justin, getting back to this, what we were talking about. Now, let's see the concept of support the troops. How is it supportive of the troops as this right-winger, Mark Williams, who's, I don't know whether his parents screwed up or he was hardwired and just came out of the womb that way. Because this is these personality deficits that translate into conservative politics. I don't know if it's nature or nurture or both.
I don't know. Do you guys get the talking points somehow? I mean, do you get those things sent to you?
No. We have the staff, and Sam and I ask for these things, and our crack team comes up with the audio and lays it down.
Yeah.
But the thing is the type of personality that we just listen to and that we have to watch on TV every day, these are the same type of people who would never serve themselves, of course.
No.
Nor would their children.
No, why should they?
Nor do they want to pay taxes to support veterans' benefits or the war in general.
Yeah.
And it is a kind of... this inner, I was talking about it earlier, this inner jerk that gets nourished by right-wing radio. And a lot of times, you know how I know for a fact it's an inner jerk? You or I or anybody who's listening sometimes has that jerk that needs to be fed. Say you're in traffic in L.A., for example, where right-wing radio is so popular because people are so enraged in their car. And so you're driving in L.A., and you've been sitting in that traffic, and somebody cuts you off. And you go to this place... And God forbid the person who cut you off is the wrong gender or the wrong color. And these Medusa-like things spring to your mouth or your brain. right?
Yep.
But you tamp it down if you're a good person. That's where these right-wingers are at all the time, 24/7.
Yeah, they're already at that agitated state.
Right.
At the top of at number 10 all the time.
And you know what it is? It's contempt.
But I don't know how, but that's what I don't get about her, is how can they do that to a mother? You know what I mean? Like, you can sort of take a lot away from her. You know, maybe you could say that she has, I mean, you could argue the fact that she might have an agenda, but she's a mom, for God's sakes. I mean, literally, there's nothing sort of more sort of, you know, noble than you can sort of do is then say, well, you know, my son was killed. And, you know, I mean, how can you, that's what this telling me, if there's not some sort of massive outcry, you know, and then Bush sort of gets, who's the lady that he sort of has been trumpeting around lately who has, you know.
Oh, there's all kinds of self-loathing, masochistic Stockholm syndrome ladies he can pull out.
The Private Ryan mom, you know, the one who, because she has, I think, 6 family members serving there. I mean, they're all alive, of course. She hasn't changed her mind because none of them have been killed yet. But yeah, she's sort of teary-eyed and dewy at his speeches in Idaho or wherever he was.
It was Idaho. She has 4 children serving. Now, we have no way of knowing if that's even true, but she might have been hired by the Russo PR firm that astroturfs a lot of these groups. But the thing is, think about it. Okay, let's think about I was talking about Greg Barron's book. Maybe he's not that into you. Think about a woman who's got 4 kids being asked to possibly sacrifice their lives, or at the very least their peace of mind, for an illegal, immoral war of choice, a war that George Bush himself or his kids would not serve in, because he's a draft dodger.
Yep.
And they are risking every day dodging an improvised explosive device,
yep.
getting in 113-degree heat, basically risking everything. For a man of no integrity whatsoever, George Bush and his neocon agenda, and she will still go up on stage and be dewy-eyed and support this guy. Maybe he's not that into her, is what I would say, and she has low self-esteem.
Maybe she didn't call her before all this. He didn't call her, you know. This is the first time, this is the first little tap on the shoulder she's gotten, I'm imagining.
And she just is so excited about being singled out, but I understand her need to believe in the mission. And today, General Myers, I'm talking to Justin Thoreau, by the way, his new movie, The Baxter, opens today. Anyway, General Myers today made a statement saying, I was listening to NPR, and he was saying, I'm really concerned about how people are viewing the war. I don't know that they're getting, how well it's going over there, and our soldiers would just, I meet soldier after soldier who just asked that they please be allowed to finish the mission. Yeah, I'm sure every young person over there is saying, please, don't take us out of this situation. Don't take us out of this heat.
Don't let it end.
Don't let us end. Let us finish this mission to privatize and spread a neocon agenda that will help no one.
Exactly.
And to fill the pockets of Halliburton and Kellogg Brown and Root.
When the Mullahs have been democratically elected, yeah.
Yes, please let us finish this mission of establishing Sharia law and making it impossible for women to leave the house.
Yeah, exactly.
Please, General Myers, please.
Me, sort of the funniest part is when we get exactly the same government Iran has in about 5 months, where it's going to be like, whoops, which is, of course, what will keep us there well beyond the 5 months.
I'm not convinced that wasn't always sort of a plan. I am not convinced sometimes when people say, how could it have been so botched? How could they be so wrong? Maybe they aren't. Maybe a level of conflict that can always be used as the boogeyman and the reason for an agenda and always keeps money flowing into the military-industrial complex. Yeah. Maybe that is the point.
Yeah.
Fear and money. And, people, the corporate cronyism that's going on and the amount of money being made by Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Kellogg Brown and Root, and others, and private security firms is astronomical.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't that maybe be an idea that isn't out of the ballpark for some of the hawks to think, you know what, if you create a quagmire and a mess, you always have a reason. So, listen to this, speaking of money.
Right.
You've heard of the estate tax, which the right-wingers disingenuously call the death tax, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Bill Frist, who is a complete hypocrite, allegedly a doctor, but apparently doesn't care at all about the Hippocratic Oath, he has made it his mission to permanently abolish the estate tax, which the right-wingers lie and say is the death tax. Now, he has said, Bill Frist, a professional liar, says the death tax, which of course is called the estate tax, is the cruelest and most unfair tax our government imposes. Now, he neglected to mention that the estate tax, the death tax, is paid almost entirely by the nation's richest 5%.
That's cruel.
And if the estate tax is abolished, his family fortunes rise by $7 million. President Bush's family fortunes and some cabinet members rise by $344 million. And the biggest winner, according to Rolling Stone magazine here, Donald Rumsfeld, whose heirs will reap $101 million if the estate tax, a.k.a. the death tax, is abolished. Now think about that. Now, guys like my dad,
on that, and I'm thinking he's got he's got his own personal interest at heart.
That's right. He will make a lot of money, $7 million. And my father, who unfortunately has been swayed by right-wing propaganda, uses the phrase death tax, was very, very concerned that the death tax be abolished, and would give me the talking points that he gets from right-wingers, and say that it is unfair, and even my dad, who's this smart guy, but when it comes to politics and emotions, he can be immature.
Yeah.
Because he has an inner jerk to nourish sometimes.
Yeah.
Will say this, it doesn't affect him, except for he and his family will have to make up the difference. All of us will have to pick up the tab for the money not going in from the nation's richest 5%. The way that corporate welfare, who has to make that up?
Yeah. Me. Mm-hmm.
And although, luckily for you and I, in some cases, I want to thank the Red Staters again, or the Freeper Creepers who might be listening. Thank you for the tax break that George Bush gave us, because sometimes we get paid well when we do some acting jobs.
Yeah, that was a great tax break for us.
Yeah, so sometimes we get a nice tax break.
Yeah.
And David Cross, who's hilarious in Rolling Stone, says he wants to thank the Red Staters, and he's going to take that money and go to Vegas and spend it on whores and things.
Exactly, cash in hand.
Yes. So
trickle down.
We have a minute left, Justin. What would you like to tell us about The Baxter, your new movie?
Yeah, you keep. I'm like listening to you, Janine.
No, I'm listening to you now. Tell the audience about The Baxter.
Oh, come on. The Baxter is a comedy starring Michael Showalter, Elizabeth Banks, Peter Dinklage, myself.
Michelle Williams.
Michelle Williams, of course. And it's a funny, lighthearted comedy. And for anyone who sort of liked The State and Stella, they might want to check it out. That's it. We're done with that.
And you're a scene stealer.
I'm a scene stealer. Little birdleg.
And you're making right now currently the Miami Vice movie.
The Miami Vice movie.
Which I know you're loving.
I'm down in Miami.
Yeah. And
I was actually talking about how much I'm starting to really be skeptical of Latina culture, because I'm telling you, everywhere down there, Viva la Bush and Viva Jeb stickers are like, I mean,
I can explain that to you later when I talk to you next about that Latino support of...
Oh, no, I get it. No.
It's not with the young, it's more with the older Latino community. But Justin...
Kid, I've been talking to him.
Well, I'll tell you what you don't know.
All right.
I'll talk to you later, Justin. Thank you. Justin Theroux's new movie, The Baxter, opens today. We'll be right back with
The Majority Report on Air America Radio. The left just got a little bit louder.
Al Franken, 9 to noon on 960 The Quick.
Green Light on the Environment, brought to you by Cliff Bar. I'm Rachel Maddow. No new logging in Alaska's Tongass National Forest, at least for now. The Tongass is home to the world's largest seasonal virgin rainforest, with some trees there over 500 years old. A federal court has rejected the government's attempt to expand logging there, ruling that the government overstated demand for the timber and understated the damage it would do to the forest. The timber industry is vowing to try again. The ban was imposed during the Clinton administration.
Did you know there's a delicious energy bar that's certified organic? It's called Cliff Bar, with the rock climber on the package. Cliff Bar is made with whole grains and real fruit and contains no trans fats or hydrogenated oils. Cliff Bar, the company, is part of a growing community of people and companies dedicated to leaving a lighter footprint on the planet. Visit cliffbar.com and learn about this small group of people working to create a better energy bar and a more healthful environment.
America, one talk show at a time.
We got a lot on our plate right now.
Big Ed Schultz.
They want to get rid of the two-party system.
Talk radio for the rest of us. Ed Schultz, noon to 3 on 960 The Quick.
In 1805, Lewis and Clark described in their journals a country teeming with wildlife.
Bison as far as the eye can see. Rivers churning with fish.
They wrote of scenes of endless beauty and of meeting more than 100 nations of American Indian, whose lives were one with our environment. Now, imagine what Lewis and Clark and the American Indians they met would say if they walked the trail today. Would they be pleased?
There are herds of homes where the buffalo once roamed.
Or would they feel differently?
Something must be done to save what's left of this great place.
As we commemorate the Lewis and Clark bicentennial, we encourage you to consider what's been lost and what we can do to preserve what's left of the trail that still winds through us all. Walk with Lewis and Clark and see what you discover at www.lewisandclark200.org.
This is a public service message of the National Council of the Lewis and Clark Bicentennial, the Missouri Historical Society, and the Ad Council.
Welcome to New York City, the home of Wall Street, the financial capital of the world. Where would we be without the city that never sleeps? And where would the Big Apple be without Thomas Edison? Thomas Edison, who's famous for the light bulb that allows so many of us to work late at the office or go out for a night in the town, also perfected the stock ticker tape machine. His electrical innovations form the backbone of the business and finance tools we now take for granted. Computers, copiers, and fax machines all owe their beginnings to inventions like the telephone and light bulb. As we celebrate the 125th anniversary of the light bulb this year, think about Thomas Edison and how different things would be on Wall Street or Main Street without his contributions. To learn more, visit EEI.org. The Edison Electric Institute, celebrating our past, lighting our present, and powering our future.
Hey there, Mr. Chipmunk.
Oh, hey, Ranger. What are you doing?
Some people left a fire burning. I was just putting it out.
Oh, for Pete's sake, I hate that. If you start a fire, you put it out. I'm a chipmunk, and I understand that.
You sound angry.
I am angry. People are being careless.
I know, but...
But what?
But let go of my leg.
Oh. Sorry.
You start a fire, you put it out. A public service message brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
He's right on target and targeting the right. Springer on the radio. Mornings, 6 to 9 on 960 The Quick.
I have a special thanks to the president for nominating John Roberts because he's making me feel 20 years younger. We've heard Judge Roberts described as anti-woman for opposing such nonsense ideas as comparable worth.
I think Judge Roberts is an excellent choice as a nominee for the Supreme Court. And one thing I can tell you is that women and men I've met with believe that John Roberts will be a justice of incomparable worth. And as the first justice of the 21st century, I think we can all be confident that Judge Roberts will be a rock of faithfulness for our core constitutional rights and principles.
Our parents have always encouraged us to be independent and dream big. We spent a lot of time at the White House. So when we showed up the first day, we thought we had it all figured out. But apparently my dad already has a chief of staff named Andy.
When your dad's a Republican and you go to Yale, you learn to stand up for yourself.
Aren't they adorable? That was the Bush twins. I have no idea what their views are on what their father does. But, boy, they're lousy at acting natural when they read copy written for them by Karen Hughes at the Republican National Convention, I'll tell you that. They very unnaturally read those allegedly spontaneous comments written for them by Karen Hughes. And the other people who were speaking were the Women for Roberts, just various partisan hacks, right-wing women's group announcing their support for John Roberts, of course, AstroTurf, of course, financially supported by the same type of PR firm, Russo PR, that pads the pockets of the swift-boat liars. It's the same thing as we talked about earlier in the week, Wise Use, which is a fake environmental group that Pat Robertson, the man of God who called for the assassination of Hugo Chavez, who works with, and what they do is they actively find ways to destroy the environment and pad the pockets of corporate America. Now, Andrea Dworkin, who passed away recently, is a great writer, a feminist writer, and she talks a little bit about oppression and the essence of oppression. And it says here that the essence of oppression is that one is defined from the outside by those who define themselves to be superior by criteria of their own choice. And she also talks about the failure of people to recognize the oppressor and the fictions and characters and cultural constructs, the reductive, totalitarian, and inappropriate ways the oppressor shapes our lives and the language of our lives in the public space. And those, like those conservative women supporting John Roberts, who are complicit in their own oppression, the Bush twins who don't speak out against their own oppression. Now, of course, you know Laura and George won't prevent them from utilizing Roe v. Wade. There's no doubt about that. In any way, shape, or form, they are fully aware that the laws don't apply to them, as it doesn't apply to their parents. It doesn't apply to any of the conservative women who work toward overturning Roe v. Wade. And always know that the civil rights group and the women's groups that are coming out in support of John Roberts are astroturfed. They are absolutely astroturfed. And there is a alleged civil rights group that made a statement at the National Press Club last night. I was watching it on C-SPAN. And they're from the Congress of Racial Equality, the National Center for Neighborhood Enterprise, and Project 21, the Center for New Black Leadership, U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. And they are saying that liberal advocacy groups that come out against Roberts' nomination do not speak for all minority communities. No, they don't. They only speak for the type of Reagan, Bush 1, and Bush 2 people of color who are paid well to come out against progressive issues and who are also complicit in their own oppression. Clinton don't seem to mind, like Condi Rice and Colin Powell, Linda Chavez. Those types of people who want a seat at the table for some reason, and it makes them feel better about themselves. I don't know why women in my peer group support George W. Bush. I don't know why people of color in my peer group support George W. Bush. I know why some of the Jewish people in my peer group support him on one issue regarding Israel, but it doesn't make sense that way either, because the policies of Sharon, Blair, and Bush are not good for Israel, and they're not good for America. But, what do I know? But anyway, this is what we all stand to lose when people like John Roberts take the bench. Now, first of all, there are many senators who have asked for John Roberts' opinions on Guantanamo, the Guantanamo Bay ruling. Of course, the Republicans don't want to give them that. And they want to see letters and correspondence about what John Roberts has said about prisoners' rights and the Constitution and the Geneva Conventions. Also, the White House refuses to release all Roberts documents. What does that tell you? And here's what else we all stand to lose: reproductive privacy, affirmative action, protection against gender-based discrimination, family and medical leave, quality health care services. This is not just women's issues. This is everybody's issues. And when you have alleged civil rights groups who have been astroturfed and paid, and alleged women's groups who have been astroturfed and paid, coming out, they are not just harming others. They are destroying themselves. But they're willing to do it. Hey, man, you can pay a right-winger to do anything. You know why? Because right-wingers, alleged conservatives, and alleged Republicans are tethered to nothing. It's a zero-sum game their entire life. It's just about domination and exclusion and what separates us rather than what ties us together. We'll be right back with the Lady Bunny on The Majority Report.
The Majority Report on Air America Radio.
Do you wish you could slow down the hands of time? You can do something about premature aging. Take Nature-Made Vitamin E, a powerful antioxidant. It helps fight premature aging by protecting the cells in your heart, eyes, skin, brain, and immune system from potential damage caused by free radicals that occur naturally in your body. Maybe it's time you consider Nature-Made Vitamin E. Look for Nature-Made Vitamin E in the vitamin aisle and hold your health to the highest standard with Nature-Made.
More coffee, mister?
Yes, please. Oh, boy.
Oh,
I'm so sorry. Hot coffee all over you. Let me get some paper towels and some cold water. Are you all right?
Why, I'm just fine, young lady. It's just scalding coffee.
Mister, you must be gelling.
That's why I'm not yelling, even though there's considerable redness and swelling.
More gel, more gelling. New and improved Dr. Scholl's Massaging Gel Insoles. More cushioning, totally outrageous comfort. To start gelling like never before, see the doctor. Dr. Scholl's.
Waitress, how about some more coffee?
960 The Shake It Up Bay Area Radio. The Quake. Shake it up. We are 960 The Quake. Shake it up.
They were charged with finding an all-water route to the Pacific, yet less than half of them knew how to swim. They nearly starved, ran out of supplies, and failed in their primary mission. So why 200 years later do Lewis and Clark still fascinate us? Maybe it's because it was a military expedition notable for battles that didn't happen. Or because the Indians they met gave them food, horses, and guidance. Maybe it's the teenage mother and the slave who were allowed to speak with their minds. Or was it because they chronicled a breathtaking and abundant American landscape? For 3 years, Lewis and Clark traveled a trail of tolerance, enlightenment, and adventure that we'd soon find out was too good to be true. It's a trail that still winds through us all. What can we learn from a 200-year-old story? Walk with Lewis and Clark at lewisandclark200.org and see what you discover.
This is a public service message of the National Council of the Lewis and Clark Bicentennial, the Missouri Historical Society, and the Ad Council.
CNN Radio News, I'm Matt Cherry. Westward ho for Hurricane Katrina. Chris Lauer of the National Hurricane Center says the storm has shifted on a path towards Mississippi and Louisiana.
We're not certain exactly where it's going to go, so need to be prepared anywhere in that region between the Florida Panhandle and Southeast Louisiana.
And forecasters say Katrina could make landfall at Category 4 strength. On CNN's Larry King Live, Federal Emergency Management Agency Director Michael Brown urged people in Katrina's second strike zone to prepare now.
So all those people living all the way from Louisiana over to the Florida Panhandle need to think now about getting ready for what could be a very major storm.
Katrina is blamed for at least 6 deaths in South Florida. More than 1 million customers there are still without power. The base closing commission decides to shuffle Air National Guard personnel and planes around dozens of units nationwide. But Commission Chairman Anthony Principi says it will help keep some bases on the chopping block open, like Elmendorf in Alaska.
It's an excellent move. It frees up much-needed space at Anchorage International Airport, consolidates the Air Guard at Elmendorf.
The commission also decided to keep 2 major Air Force bases open, Ellsworth in South Dakota and Cannon in New Mexico. The Food and Drug Administration delays the decision on whether to allow over-the-counter sales of the morning after pill. FDA Commissioner Dr. Lester Crawford says the agency needs more time.
Rather than putting into place such sweeping policy in the context of a decision on a single drug, we need to have an open process to solicit public comment on this policy change before we embark on it.
The FDA will seek public comment in the next 60 days. Sunni negotiators reject the latest draft of an Iraqi constitution. However, the document will still be put up for a vote this weekend. Al-Qaeda in Iraq issues a manifesto calling for violence and hate against all but, quote, true Muslims. This is CNN Radio News.
Guess what that sound is? Let me help you out. It's a jail cell door getting slammed shut after you've been booked for DUI. Don't think you'll get caught? Think again. Officers are cracking down from coast to coast this month. So listen up. If you drive impaired, you will pay. The choice is yours. Designate a sober driver or you drink and drive, you lose. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation.
Goodyear's rich racing heritage is the inspiration behind Goodyear Eagle high-performance tires. But that shouldn't come as a surprise. Whether you're handling winding roads or just cruising around town, you can appreciate Goodyear Eagle's high performance. And keep in mind, sporty looks still count for something. And right now, you can get up to an $80 rebate on a qualifying purchase on a new or existing Goodyear card. For complete details and the participating retailer nearest you, call 1-800-GOODYEAR. Hurry, this mail-in offer ends August 27th.
It's back behind bars for 2 brothers who'd previously been detained and later released in the Natalie Holloway investigation in Aruba. Satish and Deepak Kalpo have been rearrested on suspicion of rape and murder. Holloway's mother, Beth, is glad to hear it.
We spoke with our attorney and FBI this morning and just really encouraged by this news.
Holloway vanished nearly 3 months ago. Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan warns that the long-term health of the United States economy is at risk. Michael Basderich is a senior economist at UCLA.
He's still worried about inflation, and he's still intent on pushing up his interest rates, and he still wants Congress to do something about the budget deficit.
Greenspan spoke at an economic conference in Wyoming on Friday. The end of the week has brought some relief to the cost of crude. Oil prices fell more than $1 a barrel on Friday. They finished up at $66.13 a barrel. This is news from CNN Radio.
Major quake has hit the Bay Area. Al Franken shaking it up. 9 to noon. Talk radio for the rest of us. 960, The Quake.
You ready, Al?
I don't know. I'm feeling a little agitated.
What?
Indigestion. The renovation of the kitchen is finally done, and I forgot that Miriam is a lousy cook.
Al, she's a great cook.
Okay. It's just, she tried out a new dish to inaugurate the kitchen. It involves some peppers. And it's not sitting well. And anyway, what's going on in the world?
Now, there are rumors in Washington that Bush might drop Cheney from the ticket.
Good. We want him on the ticket. He's terrible.
His latest approval rating was down to 21%.
That's bad for him, but good for us.
The rumors are fueled by the news he fired his doctor.
He fired his doctor.
The doctor was allegedly addicted to prescription drugs. For years.
He wasn't Jewish, was he?
Well, his name is Malakoff.
Malakoff. That's not good for the Jews.
Malakoff is the doctor who gave Cheney a clean bill of health for the vice presidency, despite his 3 heart attacks and quadruple bypass surgery. And not long after that checkup, Cheney had his 4th heart attack.
But what does this have to do with Cheney being dumped from the ticket?
Well, the speculation now is that Cheney will get a new doctor who will tell him he can't run because of his health.
Those bastards. That's what they're doing.
Yep.
This is not helping my agita. I suppose it won't help if I ask about Israel either.
No.
The Oi 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 show is sponsored by Oi Oi Oi, the hit musical based on the Oi 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 show, now on Broadway. And for the next 2 weeks only, with Jason Alexander as Al Franken and Felicia Rashad as Catherine Lanford. Don't miss Oi Oi Oi, the musical.
Tell us a little bit of some of the things that are going on with it.
Well, over the last 5 years, Stephen Bennett Ministries, or SBM, has just grown incredibly into an international ministry, and it's just unbelievable, Martha, the number of people over the last 5 years who have come to Jesus Christ, who are homosexual men and women, and I just thank God for that call one day from Concerned Women for America calling for a donation to help fight the gay agenda, and never realizing when they called my wife, she basically said, silver and gold have we none, but my husband's a former homosexual, and I'm sure he'd be able to help you in any way that you can. And
it's so heartwarming and so encouraging to know that the Lord is working, at least in the hearts of people, if not in the larger agendas that we see in the news all the time. It's like the news is not all bad.
The news is not all bad. I'll tell you, Martha, over the last several months, we've had amazing opportunities. I have literally had the chance to personally witness to Rosie O'Donnell.
Silver and gold, have we none? What? Is that how you answer a phone? Anyway, my name's Janine Garofalo, and I'm here with the Lady Bunny.
Hello.
Hello. You are the founder of Wigstock, which documentary I've seen like 15 times on Bravo. Love
yes, that. Wigstock, coming up tomorrow.
Yes, it is tomorrow here in New York City. If anybody's in New York, go to Wigstock. Also, the Howl Festival is going on.
It's part of the Howl Festival. We organize it through them, and it's our 20-year anniversary, and we feel that wearing wigs is an all-American tradition that we are carrying on.
I agree with you. And if you can go to www.howlfestival.com to learn more about it. And it runs August 21st through 28th in New York City. And that, well, actually, before I talk about how much I love the documentary, let's talk about how the festival got its name and about Allen Ginsberg and the inspiration for it, and what the kind of mission statement of the festival is and Wigstock.
Well, the mission statement of Howell is to celebrate the East Village as a cultural hotbed, and once a year do hundreds of events, from poetry reading to art gallery happenings to outdoor festivals, musical events, everything that made the East Village famous. Heroin, alcohol, you get the idea.
All the good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and Wigstock is organized through that. Wigstock is 20 years old tomorrow, and that was just really the result of a club in the East Village called Pyramid closed down one night, and we staggered out drunkenly and started clowning for a few homeless people in Tompkins Square Park. And that just, the rock roots of the Pyramid wanted to do a play on Woodstock, but with wigs, since we were drag queens. And it just kind of took off, and here we are 20 years later. I never knew I would be an outdoor festival organizer.
Well, I actually, the documentary, which anyone can see, actually at fairly regular rotation on, I don't know if it's Bravo or IFC or Sundance.
I think it's Sundance.
Sundance. And not only do I love to watch stuff like that, the Cockettes documentary that I love, it just gives me a feeling of, I love it. I love it. It's progressive. It's inclusive. The narratives are inclusive. It makes people, like we heard in the sound clip coming in, irate. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you, if you have an opinion on this, when you think of the inclusive narratives of Wigstock or the Howell Festival, or what it represents to enlightenment, higher consciousness, progress, if you will, culturally and personally, what do you think it is about that terrifies those right-wingers that we heard on the way in, the alleged concerned Women for America and the ministry that turns homosexuals into children of God? Because I'm sure you have people sometimes on a regular basis getting a conversation about it.
We really I don't hear that many complaints. And, Wigstock has remained kind of edgy. Over the years, we have gotten some corporate sponsorship from people like Mac or the Village Voice or whatever. But because I'm in charge, we keep it real retarded. And I don't really, occasionally we've had to battle community boards. At one point, when Tompkins Square Park was shut down because they were afraid of the homeless riots and they booted us out to the piers, they were afraid that, we would use Wigstock to mobilize a big homeless riot. And we were like, no, we may be homely, but we're not homeless. And we don't really want to start a riot. We just want to do a drag show. So, I don't know. Some people have called Wigstock like a hipper version of Gay Pride Day, because Gay Pride Day has gotten very corporate, and it's really just, there's a big audience, so let's buy a float. And, Wigstock really celebrates the wacky, drag in New York is very different from drag in the rest of the country, which is just going to be lip syncing to Whitney Houston. We have that kind of drag too, but we have John Kelly as Joni Mitchell doing his Obie award-winning impersonation. There's people like Hedwig coming from the East Village who create their own rock. It's just a little bit more interesting than the drag around the country.
Well, I'm
not sure if I answered your question.
You didn't, but that's okay. That's okay. You don't have to, but I'm going to approach it from another angle, because I guess that makes sense. I didn't mean, though, if people have a problem with Wigstock. What I meant was, if you can answer this or if you have an opinion about it, what is it about either drag or the gay, lesbian, transgendered community that seems to have the right wing so terrified? And the gay agenda, what would that be? The agenda? The gay agenda? The list of things to do? Why is it?
Well, at least now that we're at war, gays aren't talking about gays in the military anymore, because they can see what a dirty shame it is and why they should not want to be in the military. My God. They kind of shut up about that.
But they still are being harassed in the military, and the Bush administration still has been kicking translators who are gay out of the FBI and CIA. And there's been some whistleblowers talking about, we have such a limited resource of people that can translate these languages. Why are you kicking gay people out? With John Roberts, who we talked about, the Supreme Court nominee John Roberts, who is no fan of women's rights or gay rights, what he does most specifically actually transcends gender and sexual proclivity. He is a guy that believes in
I know the feeling.
The personhood of the corporation, utilizing the 14th Amendment in a nefarious way, overrides the rights of the citizen, the actual person. And that a lot of those people who call themselves members of the Federalist Society believe in that. But also, they aren't above gay bashing. You know what I mean? Using it as a wedge issue for support for this nominee. And I guess my long-winded question was, in your life, when you encounter this right-wing intractability or this fear of the gay, lesbian, transgender community, what do you think it is? What does it mean to you? Why do you think it happens?
Well, with drag specifically, I mean, the drag is freaky. So, I mean, it's even more taboo than just an ordinary gay who you might see on Will and Grace, because it's someone that actually does not know what sex they are. And, I think that relates to what you were saying earlier, is why do these people, wave the flags that are the right-wingers? I think people want things to be in place. They want to dump it on God. God said do this, so they don't have to think. They want their president to have things in order, and they don't want to entertain conspiracy theories because they don't want to think that he would send the kids over there to die. Same with Lance Armstrong. Some kid was whining on CNN tonight. We build these athletes up so much that when something like this happened, there's a scandal like this, that, it really hurts us because we've all bought the bracelets and whatnot. And I'm like, well, maybe if you put some value on someone that had a mind instead of a physique, we wouldn't have a president that can't pronounce nuclear.
Well, in addition to that, he's illegitimate in both elections. Those were both stolen. That is not a conspiracy. And by the way, conspiracy is just Latin for to breathe together. It just means it's a group of people doing something they don't want you to know about. It doesn't make you crazy. But the thing is although what you say is absolutely true, but a lot of these right-wingers who want everything in place and don't want to believe that George Bush would bring us to an illegal, immoral war would believe it about a Democrat. They would absolutely say, but if it was Gore or Kerry, yes, I will believe it's a lie. Do you know what I mean? There's an intractability that is, it's like, as Jon Stewart says, sports. Red Sox versus Yankees. It's just my team, right or wrong.
Well, when it's tradition and when you wrap it up with religion, it is very powerful. And when you wrap it up with most of the media, thank God for Air America, drumming nonsense or insignificant stories like Aruba, trumping, important issues, sure. I mean, the people are tricked.
Aruba is about lazy. You know what I mean? If the alleged journalists and the people that work in the newsroom can talk about Aruba again, then they can bail at 5 on Friday and go for drinks. They don't have to do you don't have to do anything. Oh, we're going to talk about Aruba again? All right. Nothing needed. How much time do we have for commercial? Oh, okay. We'll be right back with the Lady Bunny and talk more about Woodstock, the Health Festival, and other stuff.
The Majority Report on Air America Radio. We're not afraid to mess up our hair on radio. Ed Schultz, noon to 3 on 960 The Quake.
Hi, I'm David Murasu. For 6 generations, my family has shared their gift, the joy of making bright, crisp, fruit-focused wine. Murasu wines are all about the vibrant, sunny character of California's Central Coast, and they're perfect for summertime. Like our Chardonnay, with grilled salmon or a big, beautiful salad. I'm David Murasu, inviting you to make your summer even brighter. Murasu, life is good under the sun.
Murasu Vineyards, Healdsburg, California.
Whatever you're doing this summer,
Dad, throw the ball!
If your back's killing you, relief is in sight. Get relief now and keep moving with Icy Hot Back Patch. Icy Hot hits it where it hurts. Gets icy first to dull the pain, then hot to relax it away. Stays put, putting medicine right where you want it for hours of pain relief. It's going to be a long, hot summer. Icy Hot's here to help. Keeps them in the car, too. The Icy Hot Back Patch. Relief that moves with you. Use as directed.
Have you called for a quote from AIS?
A public service message from Call to Recycle.
Hi, this is Richard Karn. Recycling your old cell phone is a great thing to do for the environment. Visit calltorecycle.com or call toll-free 877-2-RECYCLE.
Thomas Edison said, "I find out what the world needs, then I proceed to invent it." Bold ambitions from a dedicated inventor. Ever wonder if Mr. Edison had a hint about how much he'd change the world? Or if alive today, what he'd say about our technology, space travel, computers? I think he would probably say, keep looking, keep inventing, there's more. As we celebrate 125 years of electric innovation, it's exciting to think about what the future of electricity may bring. Perhaps bubbles in shoes that use electric current to transport us throughout the world. Or light bulbs that sense its owner with one color and flash another color at strangers. Or will there even be light bulbs? Something else Mr. Edison said. I never perfected an invention that I did not think about in terms of the service it might give to others. What will we need in the future? Who will the inventor be? You? To learn more, visit EEI.org, the Edison Electric Institute, celebrating our past, lighting our present, and powering our future.
When I'm under, I'm weightless, floating away, and all I think about is doing it again.
Michael Swan is under the influence of his volunteer swim coach. Spending a little time coaching, he helps Michael stay off drugs. Be a coach, a mentor, a volunteer. No matter what it is, you have something to offer. Log on to helpyourcommunity.org or call 877-KIDS-313 and be an influence on the kids in your community. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
Parents, need a sitter? With over 2,000 experienced nannies and sitters in the Bay Area, visit SitterCity.com to find the perfect match for your family. Register today in about 2 minutes and receive instant access to profiles of qualified babysitters in your area on SitterCity.com.
Hey there, Mr. Chipmunk.
Oh, hey, Ranger. What are you doing?
Some people left a fire burning. I was just putting it out.
Oh, for Pete's sake, I hate that. If you start a fire, you put it out. I'm a chipmunk, and I understand that.
You sound angry.
I am angry. People are being careless.
I know, but...
But what?
But let go of my leg.
Oh, sorry.
You start a fire, you put it out. A public service message brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Hey there, Mr. Chipmunk.
Oh, hey, Ranger. What are you doing?
Some people left a fire burning. I was just putting it out.
Oh, for Pete's sake, I hate that. If you start a fire, you put it out. I'm a chipmunk, and I understand that.
You sound angry.
I am angry. People are being careless.
I know, but...
But what?
But let go of my leg.
Oh, sorry.
You start a fire, you put it out. A public service message brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
9. Talk radio for the rest of us. 960 The Quake.
About a year or so ago, he referred a gentleman to me who was in his 20s who was struggling with homosexuality, and he was taken to see The Passion of the Christ and accepted the Lord that night right after the movie. And yesterday at our church, Haven of Rest Baptist Church, we had a very intimate interview, and he shared his testimony, and we would love to be able to share that with you and your listeners.
Once I saw what Jesus Christ did for me on the cross, and I saw his hands and his feet pierced, and him being whipped, and just being desperately tortured. I saw that there was a God in this earth, and I just saw his love for me and completely wanted to ask him for forgiveness in my life and have his blood completely wash away my sins. I truly believe that because I have struggled with this, that I have fallen in love with Jesus Christ because I have had to completely depend on him and surrender my life to him. A sin is a sin, and God loves the homosexual just as much as anyone else, and I realize I am a born-again believer in Jesus Christ, and that is it.
We are back on the Majority Report. My name is Janine Garofalo. I'm here with the Lady Bunny. And don't forget that the Howl Festival is going on. And tomorrow is Wigstock here in New York. August 21st through 28th, New York City is the Howl Festival. And tomorrow, Saturday, Wigstock, is it on the piers now? Or is
it's in Tompkins Square Park,
Tompkins Square Park
Avenue A and 7th Street.
A and 7th, near a great bar called 7B, which coincidentally is on 7th and B.
And I think we're using that as our dress. No, that's 7th and A that we're using.
You're using 7A.
Yeah.
But 7B
no, not the restaurant.
Oh, you're...
Some bar. There used to be the Wawa Hut.
Isn't it called 7A now?
I don't know. That's the restaurant.
Oh, Niagara. That's right. Now, those quotes were much more that we just heard coming in. Now, first of all, the young gentleman said, when I saw what Jesus did for me. Now, it's a fictional story. Now, I believe there was historic evidence of a socialist, liberal thinker and organizer named Jesus, who was a radical organizer and was crucified for it. It wasn't uncommon at the time to be crucified. He is a quasi-mythical figure, Jesus Christ. All the other stuff in the book, known as the Bible, is parable and myth and story that you're probably supposed to live your life by, not supposed to take literally. But this kid who says what he did for me, now he clearly has a need to be focused on see me, hear me, look at me. I need to know there's a guy who did something for me. Because a lot of people who are born again will say, I can't believe God chose me. Well, he didn't. You chose you. I understand your needs. We all want to be seen and heard. But stop dragging society down with you with your fanaticism, A. But then the other woman who said, I wanted to surrender my life up. That's what it's about. I don't want to do anything for me. I need Daddy to make decisions, I need gods and masters. I need gods and masters, mythical and real. I need my president to be a daddy. I need my God to be a daddy. And I find that sort of phenomenal.
But that's the whole concept of faith. Even you just have faith. You know, anytime I've ever had an argument with a religious person who you come up against a wall and they really can't back down, they say, well, I have faith, which means believe blindly in spite of any fact you present them with.
You know what's interesting about that, though? That same person who
faith.
will say, faith just is. I just have faith. I believe in this figure that lives in an otherworldly plane and sees everything we all do, judges, is omnipotent, all-knowing, all-powerful, has been here since the dawn of time and before. I just believe it. Yet you bring up facts about the conspiracies that do exist in the military-industrial newstainment complex, and that somehow is too beyond the pale for them. Somehow that's too crazy, that their president lies to them, that the Healthy Forest Initiative is actually destructive to forests, that the Clear Skies Initiative actually pollutes your air, that the estate tax, aka the death tax, doesn't affect you at all. All of these things are too crazy for them to believe, but somehow the faith in the omnipotent being that there's no evidence of is all right. Do you know? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The occult or supernatural is believable. The corruption in corporate America is not as believable to them.
Right. Well, they like their fairy tales.
Mm-hmm. Clearly. But what, that's another thing, though, I've talked about this week, where you have a lot of quote-unquote red staters or values voters or quote-unquote conservatives who will say, hey, well, we here in wherever, North Carolina, South Carolina, we like our guns. We don't like to be told what to do. We don't like government breathing down our necks, as they vote for George Bush. Yet every single thing they just said, the opposite is true. The government is getting larger. Surveillance is getting more. This particular government is screwing them over. This government will be taking their taxes when the bill for Iraq and other things comes due, especially with corporate welfare and the estate tax. That lack of self-awareness kind of blows my mind, too.
Well, the method of tricking them is so effective through most of the media. And plus most people aren't interested in politics. It's what they wait through. They go get a beer to wait for the sports, and they really only start to complain when their gas prices go up so that they can't drive to their neighbor's house to watch reality TV as cheaply.
That's right. It's always about the wallet, in effect. But we only have 1 minute left. You talk more. I've been monopolizing.
Well, if you are in the New York area, please come to Wigstock tomorrow from 4:45 to 7. Kate Pearson from the B-52s will do one of her solo numbers. Lady Miss Keir from Delight, a voice who has been, not active in a really long time, will debut some solo stuff, plus Every Queen in New York City. It's her 20-year anniversary. The forecast is gorgeous, so we expect a lot of wiggy, wacky characters.
And I love my wig, and I want to thank you for it, Lady Bunny. Thank you very much for coming in.
My pleasure. And if you need any more details, ladybunny.net or howlfestival.com. Many other Howl events in addition to Wigstock.
And also, it's just a good idea to come to the Lower East Side of New York or the West Village, or the Times Square Park is great. We'll be right back on the Majority Report. I'm Jane. Blah, 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 blah.
The Majority Report on Air America Radio.
Randy Rhodes, 3 to 7 on 960 The Quick.
When Mary bought the newly designed Maytag Neptune, the largest capacity front-load washer, she made a big impact at work.
I've noticed some real changes in Mary. Now she's here at the office so early, she snags the best parking spaces, like the one I used to have. She used to be unprepared in meetings, but now, she's even caught the eye of my boss. Just yesterday, he wondered aloud,
why can't you be more like Mary?
Mary's the new vice president. You're going to love that new office, Mary. I did.
The less laundry you have to do, the more living you can do. Thanks to the Maytag Neptune high-efficiency washer, which has the largest front-load capacity available, you can do more loads in less time. It even fits a king-size comforter and is energy efficient, which saves money. There's less laundry, more life with Maytag. Depend on us. Now get a $100 gift card when you buy a Maytag Neptune washer and dryer. Offer ends 10/16/05. See Maytag.com for details.
Do you wish you could slow down the hands of time? You can do something about premature aging. Take Nature Made Vitamin E, a powerful antioxidant. It helps fight premature aging by protecting the cells in your heart, eyes, skin, brain, and immune system from potential damage caused by free radicals that occur naturally in your body. Maybe it's time you consider Nature Made Vitamin E. Look for Nature Made Vitamin E in the vitamin aisle and hold your health to the highest standard with Nature Made.
Did you know that most vacuums sold today spew dust and bacteria back into the air your family breathes? It's disgusting, I know. Hi, I'm David Orrick, and I want to assure you that my 8-pound Orrick XL does not blow dirt back into the air. For a healthier environment, you want a hypoallergenic Orrick XL. Call me at 1-800-989-4200 for a free 30-day trial. 1-800-989-4200. I promise, my Orrick XL won't blow dirt back into the air. Ever.
CNN Radio News Update. I'm Matt Cherry. Forecasters warn Hurricane Katrina has shifted west and now has Mississippi and Louisiana in its crosshairs. Federal Emergency Management Agency Director Michael Brown says area residents need to get ready.
I want folks in that potential strike zone to really think very seriously this weekend about getting ready for a storm striking anywhere from Louisiana over to the Florida Panhandle area.
Brown spoke on CNN's Larry King Live. Two brothers who'd previously been released in the Natalie Holloway investigation are rearrested by Reuben police. Authorities suspect they acted with other people in raping and killing the missing teen. The base closing commission decides to keep Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota and Cannon Air Force Base in New Mexico open. A bankruptcy judge rules the Archdiocese of Spokane, Washington can sell parish assets to settle claims of sex abuse. The government delays a decision on whether to ban over-the-counter sales of the morning after pill. This is CNN Radio News. The United States is pressing for reform at the United Nations, as we hear from CNN Radio's Richard Roth.
It is the 60th anniversary of the United Nations, but everybody wants to change the way the UN does business. But how do you get 191 countries to agree on the method? That's what's going on right now. It's been going on for months, but now that new U.S. Ambassador John Bolton is on the scene, things are heating up.
Bolton has presented a number of proposed changes. They include getting rid of a goal to cut worldwide poverty in half. The militant group Hamas releases a videotape statement from an alleged fugitive bomb maker on the run from Israeli forces. The man, identified as Mohammed Daif, proclaims Israel's withdrawal from Gaza as a victory for armed resistance. 5 rural homes in Oregon have been swallowed up by an 1,800-acre wildfire. One man whose house was destroyed summed it all up by saying, "If you don't see it on me, I lost it." At least 30 more homes have been evacuated. This is the CNN Radio Network.
200 years ago, Lewis and Clark discovered the West. That is, if you don't count the millions of American Indians who discovered it first. Because Lewis and Clark left one civilization only to find dozens of others that, despite everything, are still here today. Walk with Lewis and Clark at lewisandclark200.org and see what you discover, because their trail winds through us all.
This is a public service message of the National Council of the Lewis and Clark Bicentennial, the Missouri Historical Society, and the Ad Council.
When I do it, everything goes dark. My heart pounds, my hands shake, and I feel like a completely different person. The rush is so intense. I think everybody should do it.
Kenzie Olson is under the influence of her community theater volunteer. Helping out at an after-school theater program, she helps Kenzie stay off the street and off drugs. So, share a skill, a passion, a hobby with kids in your community, and you can make a big difference. That's because kids who enjoy a regular positive activity with an adult are less likely to begin using drugs or alcohol. Find out how you can be a coach, a mentor, a volunteer. No matter what it is, you have something to offer. Log on to helpyourcommunity.org or call 877-KIDS-313 and be an influence on the kids in your community. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
Be a father to your child.
Dad, by spending time with your kids, you're taking an active role in their social and emotional well-being. Because the most important part about being a dad is just being there.
So get yourself together for your child's sake and be a father to your child.
A message from the National Fatherhood Initiative, 100 Black Men of America, and the Ad Council. Call 1-800-790-DADS for free helpful information.
Majority Report. My name's Janine Garofalo. And I want to talk more about the contempt that defines today's Republican Party. Contempt. That's the grease that makes the machine go. Contempt for the constituents, for the public, for the international community. And let's talk about a little bit of contempt for the environment, which affects all of us as citizens. Toxic loopholes. This is from New Scientist magazine, August issue. You can go to www.newscientist.com. Exemptions in chemical testing standards being drawn up by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency will leave us more exposed to toxic chemicals. There are protection standards, believe it or not, and they've been in place for the last 30 years. And because the information about what the EPA is doing to you and your air only comes via leaked sources, and also leaks serve as news today, there were documents and drafts of the new EPA proposal for toxic loopholes. The documents were leaked to public employees for environmental responsibility, or PEER. And the protection standards will now only apply to unpaid participants in tests. For example, if the EPA monitors children whose rooms are sprayed with pesticides, but pays their parents for the observation, those children will not be protected, meaning there is no recourse that you have if your child suffers from these standards. And also, if you pay the parents to monitor the kids to see if the pesticides are harmful, if the parents were paid, you don't have to post your findings. Do you get that? Isn't that crazy? If you are testing the safety of pesticides, and the company pays the family, then A, they don't have to publish those findings, and B, if the family suffers from the pesticides, they are not protected. There's no legal...
Just because they paid them?
Because they were paid. Okay. So protection from harmful toxins and neurotoxins will only apply to testing that aims to determine the toxicity of a chemical. Okay? If there's a test where the main purpose is to measure the level of exposure, absorption, or how it affects your metabolism, the toxicity of the chemical apart from its neurotoxicity or the effects on the subject, this is so confusing to me. The protection that you get will only apply if there's a very narrow mandate for what you're testing for. Okay, I know this seems crazy. If the testing for the toxicity of a pesticide, let's say, if the testing is aimed at determining just the toxicity of that chemical, but not the externalities, say if you get a lung tumor, then you're protected. Although I have no idea how that translates to court litigation or a civil action or anything, or any kind of compensation from the company, or anything meaning the company has to publish the findings. But if it's from the Bush administration, you know it's not good. I mean, it's an if-then statement. If-then, therefore, QED. So, tests where the main purpose is to measure levels of exposure, absorption, or metabolism of the chemical apart from its toxic effects on a subject won't be allowed without any basic safeguards. Therefore, industrial chemicals would be subject to less safeguards, oversight, and regulation than medical drugs. And we know that medical drugs have almost no safeguards, oversight, and regulation. So what this new EPA standards from the Bush administration means that industrial chemicals your family is exposed to are even less regulated than big pharmaceutical. So the EPA will publish this proposal in September only on their website, and then there's a 90-day period of public comment. But what this means is you won't know when this is published. You won't know about these new toxic loopholes and lack of protection standards for the 90-day period of public comment. You won't know about it because you probably won't know to check the website, and the news isn't going to tell you about it. I just burped. Sorry. Sorry, everybody. It's all this Red Bull and club soda. It's giving me the burps. But I don't understand how it is that a government that ostensibly serves the public, ostensibly is God-fearing, actually is not only destroying God's green earth, if you will, but children in their efforts to protect the corporation and the toxins. Now, I can only imagine the Bush administration wants neurotoxins to be unregulated and things like mercury because it affects your brain. It affects your ability to think. So I can only assume that the Bush administration wants as many neurotoxins in the environment as possible so that people become less and less able to think. Because the Republican Party will thrive if people are neurologically impaired. I think that evidence speaks for itself on a daily basis in this country.
I don't think anyone would disagree with that.
I think that the more babies that are born and the more neurologically impaired babies that are born is great for the Republican Party. A, to pay down the debt in the war bill. But B, if you have neurologically impaired people, then the Republican rhetoric and propaganda sounds really, really good. And
in my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again for the truth to sink in, to kind of catapult the propaganda.
Exactly. Jeez. And if you catapult the propaganda against a neurologically impaired body, you're going to get a Republican vote, I think, because it's mutually exclusive. There is no way you can support the Bush administration and be it reveals one of two things, or a couple of things about you. If you are a George Bush supporter and a Fox News fan and a right-wing radio fan, a couple of things are true. Either A, you have no idea what's going on, so you just believe what they tell you, because you're not exposed to any other opinions or facts. You're not exposed to any facts whatsoever, and you don't have any ability to viscerally or otherwise experience the actual or the real. So you are a person who effectively has blinders on or is impaired in some way. So you support the Bush administration. B, you're a cruel piece of garbage, because sometimes God does create garbage. God don't make no garbage, it says on a T-shirt when I was a kid. But yeah, he does. He frequently creates garbage. You just need only turn on right-wing radio or Fox News to see lots of garbage created, I guess, by God, if you believe in God. So if you support George W. Bush and you're a right-wing fan, you are either a very, very neurologically impaired person, you have never been exposed to any other information ever, or you're a jerk. You're a real grade A douchebag. That's because there is no other explanation for it. You can't be a critical thinker. You can't be a compassionate person. You can't be an equitable person. You can't be open-minded. You can't have a high consciousness. You can't have a strong character and be a fan of any of those right-wing things. It's mutually exclusive. There is absolutely no other way around it. You are either a dickhead, or you're very stupid, or you're genuinely neurologically impaired, or you are absolutely unable to get any other information other than the exposure to right-wing information, which is myth and lie and partisan hackery. But that's all you ever... Maybe somebody has you in a baggie sealed beneath the Earth's crust, and they're funneling in Fox News to you only. I don't know. I don't know what it would be. But, there's a... Speaking of Bill O'Reilly, and God does create garbage. Here's a quote from Bill O'Reilly from the Progressive magazine regarding the Al Franken show on Air America. So all those clowns at the liberal radio network, we could incarcerate them immediately, said Bill O'Reilly about Air America. Send over the FBI and just put them in change because they're undermining everything and they don't care. That's Bill O'Reilly. And I have actually met Bill O'Reilly on a number of occasions, and I can tell you that it's personal issues, not public policy, that drive him.
Isn't he very tall?
He's about 6'5", and he is a bully because he was raised by a bully. And even when you see his biography on A&E, I think it's on A&E, his peer group, everybody is so hard-pressed to say nice things about him. His friends, that every year he takes his friends on a vacation that he pays for, and they would interview some of them, and they tried to parse their words. I mean,
like, listen, buddy, free vacation. What do you want from me?
He is very tall.
He's very tall. He's very opinionated. He's very opinionated.
That's a wonderful voice.
Yeah, whatever it is, it's Bill O'Reilly's issues probably started with his father, who was, I guess, an unconscionable prick and bullied him a great deal and made him feel inadequate or whatever. But you can't have a healthy ego. You can't have a healthy personality. You can't have a healthy sense of self and be a right-winger. Mutually exclusive. You can't say what O'Reilly says and have a healthy ego. Can't. It's just not possible. We will be right back on The Majority Report.
The Majority Report on Air America Radio. Reading your comments at MajorityReportRadio.com.
The Majority Report, 7 to 10 p.m. on 960 The Quake.
Whatever you're doing this summer,
Dad, throw the ball!
if your back's killing you, relief is in sight. Get relief now and keep moving with Icy Hot Back Patch. Icy Hot hits it where it hurts. Gets icy first to dull the pain, then hot to relax it away. Stays put, putting medicine right where you want it for hours of pain relief. It's going to be a long, hot summer. Icy Hot's here to help. Keeps them in the car, too. The Icy Hot Back Patch. Relief that moves with you. Use as directed.
More coffee, mister?
Yes, please. Oh, boy.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Hot coffee all over you. Let me get some paper towels and some cold water. Are you all right?
Why, I'm just fine, young lady. It's just scalding coffee.
Mister, you must be gelling.
That's why I'm not yelling, even though there's considerable redness and swelling.
More gel, more gelling. New and improved Dr. Scholl's massaging gel insoles. More cushioning, totally outrageous comfort. To start gelling like never before, see the doctor, Dr. Scholl's.
Waitress, how about some more coffee?
You've applied for a new... Let's talk business and Thomas Edison and celebrate 125 years of electric innovation. Thomas Edison became an inventor to create affordable things for everyone. You could say he was the first find-a-need and fill-it man. His team in the invention lab consisted of a clockmaker, glassblower, mathematician, carpenters, machinists, and helpers who worked 24/7. Edison had lots of ideas, and one was the incandescent light bulb. The first bulb burned for 40 hours, so the team had to find a way to keep it burning. They built a generator. Next, they needed a way to light the city. So on New Year's Eve in 1879, they harnessed the energy of Niagara Falls, and there was light everywhere. As you turn your computer on or flip a light switch, reflect on the spin-offs of this inventive team and its leader, Thomas Edison, the Idea Man. To learn more, visit EEI.org, the Edison Electric Institute. Celebrating our past, lighting our present, and powering our future.
When I'm under, I don't breathe. I'm weightless. My heart races. I'm floating away. And when it's over, all I think about is doing it again.
Michael Swan is under the influence of his volunteer swim coach. Spending a little time coaching, he helps neighborhood kids like Michael stay off the street and off drugs. So, share a skill, a passion, a hobby with kids in your community, and you can make a big difference. That's because kids who enjoy a regular positive activity with an adult are less likely to begin using drugs or alcohol. Find out how you can be a coach, a mentor, a volunteer. No matter what it is, you have something to offer. Log on to helpyourcommunity.org or call 877-KIDS-313 and be an influence on the kids in your community. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
April 1805. Bison as far as the eye can see. An abundance of bald eagle. Meriwether Lewis.
July 1805. We beheld a great number of antelope, deer, and elk. William Clark.
Imagine if Lewis and Clark's journals continued long past the end of their journey.
June 1905. Beaver trapped out. Buffalo herd down to a scant few.
How would they describe their trail today?
August 2005. The river is silent.
Would they be pleased?
On a more pleasant note, the new interstate certainly makes the commute more manageable.
Or would they feel differently?
Something must be done to save what's left of this great place.
As we commemorate the Lewis and Clark bicentennial, consider what's been lost and what we can do to preserve what's left. Walk with them and see what you discover at www.lewisandclark200.org.
This is a public service message of the National Council of the Lewis and Clark Bicentennial, the Missouri Historical Society, and the Ad Council.
Morning 6 to 9 on 960 The Quake.
We are back at the Majority Report. I'm Janine Garofalo. Laura Flanders, Air America's own Laura Flanders, will be going to Crawford, Texas tomorrow to broadcast from Crawford and to report on the Cindy Sheehan Vigil, progressive movement and rallies that are going on, and also the pro-George Bush Stockholm Syndrome celebration from the sadomasochists. And also, Air America's Chuck D. I saw this quote by Chuck D. that I thought was really great, and it's in the current issue of the Progressive magazine. And there's a great interview with Chuck D. in the Progressive. But here's a quote that I thought was great. The powers that be are trying to meld, shape, and corral the culture of hip-hop into another speaking voice for the government. Early on in the recent war, Vibe magazine was working with the Army to recruit black youth. They are willing to do this because they will take money from the highest bidder. It's one corporation dealing with another corporation. And I absolutely see that as well on MTV and VH1 and Comedy Central. Every other commercial on MTV, VH1, and Comedy Central is a GoArmy.com Army recruitment commercial. And yet Viacom, which I believe is the parent company of all those, refuses to air anti-war movement commercials or Cindy Sheehan ads or MoveOn.org because they don't want to be political. Yet the corporation will take the money of the military-industrial complex and actually perpetuate the myth of honor in this current conflict and try and get recruitment numbers up so the young people that they depend upon to watch the network, they are trying to corral and coerce into giving up their lives and or their limbs and or their peace of mind for an illegal, immoral invasion occupation of Iraq that was perpetrated by men and women who themselves would not serve, chicken hawks, and the women who love them. And this corporation that takes money from the Army and the government to air pro-war advertising will not respect their viewers enough to air progressive, conscious, peaceful messages. Every other commercial when you watch MTV and VH1 practically and Comedy Central is an Army advertisement trying to lure young people into dying for Halliburton.
That's so unbelievable, especially seeing how unpopular the war is now. I mean, the majority of people are against it, the way it's being handled. If they actually got their head out of there, whatever, they might realize that making the opposite choice might actually interest them more.
Well, the Democrats could learn that lesson, too. And it's the same thing with sitcom television, wherein sitcom television and TV in general is always after this elusive 18 to 35 male demographic that consistently does not watch primetime television. Women do. Women tend to watch TV more, and TV doesn't want to go to Ready Market. They don't want to do that. Corporate Democrats do not want to actually gear their message or their platforms towards the majority of Americans who are Democrat and liberal, whether they know it or not. And the base of the Democratic Party, which is the grease, really, and the voting bloc that goes out for midterms and regular elections, that Howard Dean lit a fire under, and that Dennis Kucinich lit a fire under, and Ralph Nader lit a fire under, the corporate Democrats, including Hillary Clinton, does not want to go after that. I think it's human nature. You want to curry favor with those that want you least. Just again, Greg Barrett could have commented on that. Maybe he's not that into you. But the thing is it is human nature to go after an elusive demo rather than making detente with your strength and your base or a group of people that want to hear your message. And there is a consensus in the corporate media and the corporate punditocracy and the partisan hacks that somehow Bush is popular. He never was.
Exactly right.
He never was. That somehow gay bashing is popular. It never was.
And Clinton was the one that everyone hated.
Yeah, Clinton was the second most popular president in history upon leaving office after John Kennedy. Right now, George W. Bush is at 36%, which is Nixon low. And that's with all the lies and propaganda and machine behind him. That's with all the money and machine and lying behind him. And the thing is it's up is down, black is white. Even though George W. Bush is as unpopular as Nixon, his agenda is still getting rammed down our throats. Even though the majority of Americans support Roe v. Wade and support gay rights and support equitable taxation and social justice issues and gender equality.
And oppose the war.
And oppose the war. The Bush right-wing agenda gets pushed through. Now, that is just like North Korea. That is just like the old Soviet Politburos. I don't know why people mock North Korea so much. When you look at some of the tenets of North Korean governmental policy, the propaganda, the undercutting the will of the people, undercutting law, that is just like here. Dear leader Kim Jong-il, that is basically what Bush fanatics, they might as well call him. They wish they could. If they could call Reagan and Bush dear leader, they would. And they absolutely need that myth. There is certainly differences between North Korea and America, but not when it comes to the PR machine, and not when it comes to the godlike worship of the leader, on the part of some people, and not when it comes to the propaganda machine that supports that corruption in North Korea. The same propaganda machine known as the military-industrial newstainment complex supports an unpopular president who won neither election. He was never popular. But it is just like any other advertising campaign. There is no difference between Madison Avenue and Washington. Same shite, different branch. And there is, let's talk again about the alleged Bush support and support for the war. Now, I know a lot of you are familiar with the October 2004 survey by the University of Maryland Program on International Policy Attitudes, or PIPA, Research Center. Okay. 75% of Bush supporters erroneously believe that clear evidence linked Iraq to the World Trade Center bombing, compared to 30% of John Kerry supporters, meaning that only 30% of John Kerry supporters were wrong, whereas 75% of Bush supporters are wrong. That's clear. There is no way Bush can be supported without you being wrong.
Of course, right.
Now, that's another thing we can sort of take heart in. Now, the reason that the right wing has to lie so much, the reason that the right wing has to astroturf groups, the reason that the right wing has to spend millions and millions of dollars is because they do not have public opinion.
That's right.
And they will also never have a Green Day with an American Idiot album. They will never have music. They will never have the arts. They will never have documentaries on their side. They will never have actual, authentic public opinion on their side. They can have some hat acts from Nashville. They can have some dumbasses from NASCAR. And they can have paid partisan hacks. But they will never, ever have the public, truly. And that's why progress will always win. That's why women do vote. And that's why we don't own slaves. And that's why we have seatbelts. And that's why we don't have Joe McCarthy's House of Un-American Activities still having televised broadcasts. I don't think they won't still try. But they will never ultimately win. And after this period of darkness is over, after this Bush thefts are over, we're going to have another Renaissance and Enlightenment period. And then we're going to have to be vigilant against stopping and happening again. But 72% of Bush supporters falsely believed Iraq had weapons of mass destruction or major program for developing them, versus 26% of Kerry supporters. Of course, Bush cannot fake win without 75% of people not knowing what the hell's up. Dumbass. We'll be right back.
The Majority Report on Air America Radio.
Do you wish you could slow down the hands of time? You can do something about premature aging. Take Nature Made Vitamin E, a powerful antioxidant. It helps fight premature aging by protecting the cells in your heart, eyes, skin, brain, and immune system from potential damage caused by free radicals that occur naturally in your body. Maybe it's time you consider Nature Made Vitamin E. Look for Nature Made Vitamin E in the vitamin aisle and hold your health to the highest standard with Nature Made.
Hi, I'm David Orrick. 40 million Americans suffer from allergies, 17 million from asthma, 37 million from sinus infections. Here's the thought: change the air you breathe. An Orrick Professional Air Purifier completely renews the air in an average-sized room every 10 minutes. Try it free for 90 days. Call 1-800-989-4200. That's 1-800-989-4200.
A major quake has hit the Bay Area. Al Franken, shaking it up, 9 to noon. Talk radio for the rest of us. 960 The Quake.
Who said genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration? The inventor Thomas Edison. Most people know about his work with the light bulb, but his first invention was actually in the political arena. In 1868, Mr. Edison invented the electric vote recorder. That's right, 1868. As we celebrate 125 years of electric innovation, here's more. At age 10, Edison built his first laboratory. Today he holds more patents than anyone in U.S. history, 1,093. And one invention took 6,000 tries. Thomas Edison was persistent. When he was born, the thought of using electricity to light our homes was a distant fantasy. At his death at age 84, it was a reality in hundreds of cities around the world. To learn more, visit EEI.org. The Edison Electric Institute, celebrating our past, lighting our present, and powering our future. Oh, the invention that took 6,000 tries? The incandescent light bulb.
CNN Radio News, I'm Matt Cherry. Hurricane Katrina appears headed the way of Mississippi's Gulf Coast and southeast Louisiana. Forecasters say the storm could make landfall Monday at Category 4 strength. Louisiana Governor Kathleen Blanco says preparations are underway.
What I have done is issued a proclamation declaring a state of emergency. That enables all state agencies to marshal our resources and get prepared.
It's cleanup time in South Florida, where Katrina is blamed for at least 6 deaths and has left more than 1 million people without power. Peter Tian of the American Red Cross says his organization is lending a helping hand.
We have our staff and equipment coming in to help provide meals, financial assistance to families, and mental health support to those who were touched by this disaster.
Katrina is currently packing maximum winds of 105 miles per hour. 2 brothers are rearrested in connection with the Natalie Holloway disappearance on suspicion of rape and murder. Investigators say they uncovered new facts and circumstances in the case. Holloway disappeared nearly 3 months ago. The Base Closing Commission keeps 2 major Air Force installations in business, as we hear from CNN Radio's Dick Uliano.
To hear Base Closing Commissioner Harold Gaiman tell it, there just would not be any money savings by closing South Dakota's Ellsworth Air Force Base.
Now, the question is whether it's reasonable, then, to back all that military manpower out.
And the Commission agreed, delivering a shocking reversal to the Pentagon's plan to close Ellsworth. As for New Mexico's Cannon Air Force Base, Governor Richardson has hope.
I'm encouraged by the Commission's action on Cannon Air Force Base. They want to keep it open.
Commissioners heaped praise on Cannon and its community as they struggle to weigh the proper role for Cannon's future. Dick Uliano, CNN Radio, Washington.
It's a decision that could have nationwide implications. A federal bankruptcy judge rules the Archdiocese of Spokane, Washington, can settle sex abuse claims by liquidating its assets. This is CNN.
When Mary bought the newly designed Maytag Neptune, the largest capacity front-load washer, she made a big impact at work.
I've noticed some real changes in Mary. Now she's here at the office so early, she snags the best parking spaces, like the one I used to have. She used to be unprepared in meetings, but now, she's even caught the eye of my boss. Just yesterday, he wondered aloud,
why can't you be more like Mary?
Mary's the new vice president. You're going to love that new office, Mary. I did.
The less laundry you have to do, the more living you can do. Thanks to the Maytag Neptune high-efficiency washer, which has the largest front-load capacity available. You can do more loads in less time. It even fits a king-size comforter and is energy efficient, which saves money. There's less laundry, more life with Maytag. Depend on us. Now get a $100 gift card when you buy a Maytag Neptune washer and dryer. Offer ends 10/16/05. See Maytag.com for details.
The independent watchdog for the CIA wants the agency to conduct disciplinary reviews for officials involved in failed intelligence reports before 9/11. Former Congressman Bob Barr supports the idea.
I just think there's so much institutional defensiveness here, and the administration does not want to admit mistakes, so I think that this probably will eventually be swept under the rug, and we'll be the worse for it.
CIA Director Porter Goss now has to decide whether the reviews take place. CNN Radio's Bob Wicken reports authorities have announced some arrests in a computer worm attack.
Last week's computer worm crippled news systems at CNN, ABC, the New York Times, and the U.S. Customs Service. The FBI says 2 men, one from Turkey and the other from Morocco, are responsible. The 21 and 18-year-old were arrested in their home countries by authorities who cooperated with U.S. investigators.
New York State authorities now say 33 people have been hospitalized thanks to a gastrointestinal illness linked to a water park. This is news from CNN Radio.
Have you called for a quote?
What would Lewis and Clark think today of the land they crossed 200 years ago? Walk with them and see what you discover at www.lewisandclark200.org.
A message from the National Council of the Lewis and Clark Bicentennial, the Missouri Historical Society, and the Ad Council.
Music can mean only one thing here on the O'Franken Factor. It's time for the Oi 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 Show. Are you ready, Al?
Sure.
It's Friday, and it's time for a special entertainment edition of the Oi 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 Show.
Phew.
It was either that or the all-torture edition.
Hey.
Well, first Friends goes off the air.
What? It did? No one told me. Oi.
More than 55 million people watched the final episode of the show last week.
They're all gone? The Friends? Even that nice Ross?
Well, Joey's coming back with his own show.
Aye.
And last night was the sign-off for Frasier.
Aye. Actually, I never actually cared for that show. Something that was, I don't know, about it was very, very...
boyish?
Yes. Yes.
Brad Pitt's new movie, Troy, opened this week.
Yes, I'm giving it 3 oys. Oi, oi, oi.
Is that good or bad?
If I give it 3 oys, that means go see Troy.
And in India, a major electoral upset that no one saw coming gives the power back to the Nehru-Gandhi family dynasty.
Aye. Well, wait a minute. That's not entertainment.
It is in India.
Aye, aye, aye. Okay, so what's the #1 show in Israel?
You don't want to know.
The Oi 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 Show today is brought to you by Troy, now in theaters nationwide. Al Franken says, if I give it 3 oys, go see Troy.
Mr. Crowley. It's Bill Crowley, news guru extraordinaire, reporting master on the Iraqi disaster. Our expert newsman with the master plan. Here he is, our fearless leader alongside Garofalo and Cedar. Mr. Bill Crowley.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, Janine, how are you?
I'm good.
I never saw that pink wig before. Is that new?
The Lady Bunny brought it for me in honor of Wigstock, which takes place tomorrow in Hopkins Square Park.
That's a much smaller piece of hair than...
She had a big old wig
That's
on.
the biggest hair I ever saw in my life.
Plus, she's tall.
Well, that's true.
But it's a beautiful pink wig that she got me. And tomorrow, don't forget, if you're in New York, Wigstock in Tompkins Square Park on the Lower East Side, 7th and B, approximately.
Janine, do you know who we have on the phone?
No, who?
Samuel Cedar.
Samuel.
Hi, Janine.
Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos.
Hey, Sam, are you wearing a wig, Sam?
I am I'm actually wearing a maternity dress, my wife's old maternity dress, and I'm wearing a feeding bra. I'm sorry I asked.
He's a great wet nurse. Stop it, you guys. He's a great wet nurse.
You know, I had to call in because my baby has been screaming, crying the entire day. Janine, Bill, as you know, I have a new daughter. She is almost 2.5 weeks old at this point. And I don't know if you guys read the Union Tribune Union Tribune out of California. Apparently, my daughter does. She has been hysterical. Apparently, and I'm going to read from this. Representative Randy Duke Cunningham demanded and received a bribe from a Pentagon contractor who paid far above market value for the congressman's Del Mar area home in 2003. According to court documents filed yesterday by federal prosecutors. Without citing details, prosecutors said in the documents that Cunningham sold the house in return for his influence in Congress, where he serves on the House subcommittee that oversees Pentagon spending. This is a story we've been following. Of course, my daughter was following it when she was in utero, and she remembers when Duke Cunningham said, I have lived my entire life above board. I've never even smoked a marijuana cigarette. And now this? What do I tell my daughter? What do I tell my screaming, crying daughter when she's now found out that Duke Cunningham lied? Any suggestions, guys?
Well, Sam, I think what you need to tell her is that there are people in this country who, for whatever reason, have no respect for law, no respect for other citizens. They are contemptuous of all things in decent society, and they are called Republicans. And you can tell
thought
your
you were going to say
daughter,
they're all called Duke.
some of them are called Duke, and you can tell your daughter that she can be a Democrat or a independent.
She's only 2 weeks old. She's not going to understand that.
Well, you asked.
If I tell her that.
Did you just dump me, Colin?
Yeah, you can't say that word.
I can't say block?
That's why I was laughing.
No.
Wow.
You know what,
Things
Colin?
have
I
gotten
think you're
really racy
arbitrary.
there on a Friday night. That's what happens when you...
No, I'm right. Believe me.
That's what happens when you have cross-dressers in there. You start cussing, and who knows what happens.
It's the first step on the road to degradation. Is that what you're trying to say, Sam?
Well,
what,
I'm just
taking
saying,
bribes for your house?
Friday night is loose night. It's
Now,
casual
Sam,
Friday.
what about those corporate housing? Remember?
That's right. Yes. The whole story was, for people who don't know out there, Randy Duke Cunningham sold his house in San Diego to a defense contractor called MZM, and it was purchased. There was a guy, I can't remember his first name, but his last name is Wade, and he was the CEO of this MZM. And MZM came out and said that the reason why they purchased the house was because they wanted to explore having a corporate presence in San Diego.
Right.
And unfortunately, within a couple of weeks, they realized a residential house is not the appropriate place to start a major defense corporation in San Diego. So they tried to sell it.
For the computer business, it would be okay, or software, but not for a defense contractor. Yeah,
or if you were just, I think, drug running, maybe.
Yeah, that especially. They'd still have it then.
But the best part is that they ended up selling the house 260 days later. Now, Bill.
Yes, Sam.
I know that you keep your fingers in the real estate market.
Absolutely.
Because you're a wheeler and dealer. I mean, how many houses do you think in San Diego over the course of the past 4 years have gone down in value by over 100%? I mean, 50% rather, I should say. They bought the house for $1.7 million and had to sell it for $700,000. They lost, $1.4 million. They lost $700,000.
I'm sure. I would say zero, except there's probably a few houses that either were burned or flooded or hit by mudslides and probably lost some value.
Or there could be other Republican congressmen who have made other deals. But the bottom
it's funny
line
that you said the drug running, because didn't the guy also have a boat? And Randy Duke Cunningham moved on to the boat next? Didn't that happen?
Yes, he moved on to a Miller's boat. Well, the funny thing is, too, is that MZM, it turned out, never actually even paid for the house. It turned out to be a different company by the CEO of MZM. And he also owned this boat, which he renamed, where Duke Cunningham was living on. And supposedly Duke was just, borrowing it, but they renamed it the Dukester.
Yeah.
Quite a coincidence.
Well, that's also creative.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That was he was a huge fan of Rob Schneider's character back on SNL.
The Dukester!
The Dukeamundo.
Dukealicious.
But the best part,
terrific.
too... The best part, too, is that the boat that he lived on prior to the Dukester was sold to a guy for about $400,000 more than it was worth. And this guy ended up putting another $100,000 in it to revamp it, and was going to sell it back to the Duke Cunningham before all this went down. And it turns out that guy, his name is Kuntagiannis, it turns out he is actually a convicted briber of federal state government officials.
I feel like this is like 1940. When no one's paying attention to these things.
Why? Because the audio quality of this, or because of what Sam's saying?
Because of the actions, like how blatant all these people are with the extortion and the bribery.
It's like Chinatown.
Like Boss Tweed in the Tammany Hall.
Yeah.
Tammany Riggs.
Like, I feel like there was actually probably suitcases full of money involved here. It was like that, literally that obvious.
Gunny sacks.
It is white-collar crime. It is white-collar gang thuggery. No, the only difference between what the mafia does and what the government does and what gangs in the streets do is that sometimes the mafia goes to prison, and most of the time street gang young men, especially if they're of color, go to prison.
Well, listen, guys, I have to go back and
can I tell you one more thing that Rick Perry said?
Sure.
You know Governor Rick Perry, who
from
Texas, who I can almost guarantee you closet queen. No offense to the
there
gay
was that
lesbian
big
trans-
scandal that was out there that he was caught with one of the officials. I can't remember who it was, but there were rumors definitely to that effect.
Well,
the Rickster.
Well, he is, my family lives in Texas, as you know, and Governor Rick Perry is not only is a right-wing jerk and just incompetent, so it's perfect that he succeeds Governor Bush, but he is a guy that seems to be a typical closet queen coward. No offense, again, to the gay, lesbian, transgendered community. But anyway, so Sam, on June 5th, at an event in Fort Worth, of course at a church, Governor Rick Perry signed a law that tightens restrictions on abortion, along with a proposed amendment to the state constitution defining marriage as between a man and a woman. A reporter then asked Rick Perry how he would tell Texas's gay and lesbian veterans that they can't come home from Iraq and get married. And Governor Perry said, I'm going to say Texas has made a decision on marriage. And if there's a state with more lenient views, maybe those veterans should find another place to live.
Oh, that's
how about that?
How American. How wonderful.
Uniquely American.
Well, I'll tell you something. I was listening a little bit on the way up today to Limbaugh and Hannity just to check in and see. And I realize these people are the hate Americans, the blame Americans first crowd. Mm-hmm. They are now attacking American citizens for our failure in Iraq. It is fascinating.
Well, they got at any port in a storm. Sam, Jean Kirkpatrick coined that phrase, blame America first. She was a Reaganite, and she used that against any voices of dissent or progressive voices. Blame America first, and the right-wingers have picked it up. But what these people are is, you're exactly right, the blame Americans first, accountability last crowd.
Exactly. Well, listen, I've got to go. My baby is crying. She's hysterical about this Cunningham thing. And you know what she also said? Well, she didn't say it, but she signed it. I used that DVD you gave me, and I'm teaching her how to sign. But she has signed to me. She said, make sure on Monday, Dad, you talk about how John Roberts was incredibly unethical in staying on this Hamdan case. And we're going to talk more about that on Monday.
And of course you mean the Marley Matlin Sign Language Baby Einstein DVD.
Exactly, that you gave me for the birth of my child.
That's right. When you said signing, I think people might have thought you meant signing it with a pen.
Sign language, yeah.
Sign language is what he meant.
Yeah.
His baby can sign. All right, Sam.
All right, well, I got to go, guys. I'll talk to you later.
See you,
Bye.
Sam.
Well, Bill, thank you. I probably won't see you next week.
Have a blast.
I will, thank you.
Out there. We'll see
I'm
when
going to go
you come
back to
back.
LA. Yep, I'll see you when I come back, and we will be back after this commercial break.
The Majority Report.